What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of AOS Trash Pandas. I'm one of your hosts. That's probably
one of your hosts.
I'm one of your hosts. Well, we're kind of the same person, right? Most of the time we exist.
You just shaved your head bald.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I've been calling it my my processor's new air cooling system. Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to shave the rest of your beard, and then just
we just become one person. Yeah. I'll start playing ogres. It'll be great. My hair is gone. Well, it's not gone. I threw it in the trash.
And then I took it out of the trash. And he doesn't know.
And started sniffing it. I did notice that, actually. Because it was so loud, you know? And it was right next to my head. Yeah. Just... We're keeping it classy. I forgot to install the timer. But never fear anyone, okay? So, because there is a timer, like you can look at the bottom, left side of your screen. You can see how far we're into it. I can see how far... I actually came back to my computer and I was like, what was I supposed to do again? The reason for the timer is because there's going to be some cursing, okay? So we've promised a rant, and a rant we shall deliver. But a proper rant isn't a proper rant without some cursing. So if you got little ones in the room, I would suggest putting on the old headset, and we'll try to keep it to a dull roar, but we will let our feelings be known. But first, there's a rumor engine, Carson. What do you think?
I'm with Ludivicus in the chat, where this is Gitmov. Solved. Thank you. The
rumor engine?
It's a Snarl Fang rider, basically. Like it's very clearly...
Really?
It's the exact same as like the leather that's on the Snarl Fangs.
Really? I didn't. That's like the one kit that I don't have.
Fair enough. That's what...
Yeah. Huh.
I wouldn't have spotted that myself, but like instantly the Gits fans all over the internet were just like, yep, that's what that is. And I looked and I was like, yeah, that is what that is.
Wow.
So I can send you a picture to bring up on stream if you want.
Oh, you can see the fur. Yeah, I would love that, actually. I would love to show the peoples. Sorry, I'm laughing because of the chat. Essentially, like people are talking about how the Oilers let us down, let us all down, all this other stuff, and Matthew's just like, I'm a Canucks fan. F the Oilers. That's the weird thing that, like, it's so strange. Like, I was talking about this with my son when I was picking him up from something, and because the final game was on yesterday, if people don't know, and I was like, I should be rooting for the Oilers. Like, I should be, you know? And I used to root for the Oilers and Calgary and, like, whoever was the next closest team to me, right? But then I used to work in, like, the tourist industry, right? And I met people, mostly people from Calgary, to be fair. And I'm not saying everyone's like this from Calgary, right? But I had enough of experiences where we lost to them in the playoffs, right? And I was like, I wasn't feeling it, but I was like, no, you got to tilt the world. You got to tilt the axis of the world for the better. You got two choices, for worse or for the better. And I was like, congrats for you guys beating us in the playoffs. You know, I'm happy for you guys. And on multiple occasions, I stopped saying this because more often was the case that they were like, ha ha, we crushed you, suck it. I'm just like, what the hell, man? Friendly fire. I was being nice, you know? So I don't do that anymore. But it was mostly people from Calgary, first of all. Second of all, I try, you know? But there's a weird phenomenon where, like, people from, like, Montreal and Toronto, like, particularly root against each other, and I think it's like that. I know it's like that between Edmonton and Calgary as well, which is weird because they're in the same province. But yeah, it's kind of like that here,
it's
too.
like that between Edmonton and Calgary, and Vancouver and Calgary, and Toronto and Calgary,
Yeah.
and Winnipeg and Calgary, and Montreal and Calgary.
That's true. That's true, but it's also true that it's like that between Vancouver and Toronto, and Edmonton and Toronto, and Calgary and Toronto, and Montreal and Toronto, and Winnipeg and Toronto. Basically everything and Toronto again. I don't know. Anyway, what are we talking about the sports stuff for? We don't know anything about sports. Did you send me the thingamajig?
I did.
Okay.
I did, yeah.
I will pull it up.
If you zoom in on the side of the wolf, or the snarlfang, sorry.
Well, did I mention that you can see the fur in the background? Like, I kind of know what you guys are talking about. Okay. Yeah. Open image, new tab. Boop. And boop. Oh, wow. Wow. See, I read it as, like, metal, and so I was just like, that. I don't remember anything like that. Wow. So it's some kind of, like, Git boss on... Is that already what you said? I'm sorry if I'm like, stealing the...
I said git mob, but...
Git mob? Oh, okay. But, like, I think I see, like, as you said, I think
like
we can see the
boss
fur.
or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right. And it's, like, the easy answer that they always pick, right? Because you can see fur here. Yeah, it's got to be. I'll bet you it's some kind of, like, what do they call it? What are they going to call it? Like, snarl boss on wolf or whatever they call it? I don't know. Huh. I want them to call it, like, a squig boss on wolf or something like that. That would be so much cooler.
Yeah, on the top of the wolf is a squig.
Yeah. that would be so awesome. I was thinking he's got two squigs like strapped to his arm like gauntlets, and he's a squig boss on the wolf, and he's just punching guys, with squigs.
It would be effective.
I mean, not only that, like, how rad would that be, right? Like that. I mean, I'm definitely. How far are we in? We're 7 minutes in. I can say whatever I want. I'm kind of like sucking my own D there a bit by going, like, how awesome is that idea? But seriously, I think it actually encapsulates like what they do so well in Orcs 40K with like squig hair. Was that what they're called? Squigwig? You know what I'm talking about, right? Where all hair on orcs is actually a squig.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so like, I don't know. I think that'd be awesome. But such a good doge. Yeah, I mean, they're all good dogs. Except for Carson's. I mean,
Satan spawn that one.
she's a great dog. She's a great dog. Like, it's like how I love Skaven. Like, they are inherently malevolent and evil, but it's their nature, and so I can still love them. That's how I feel. Makes sense, right? Anyway, moving right along. So, okay. I guess we get right into it.
Yeah, I guess we do.
So,
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's two-part. For Carson, I just brought up the Farewell to Warscroll Builder screen. Might seem unrelated. You're like, yeah, that sucks. But at least we have the app, right? That's not going to change. Like, we're definitely going to be able to still build the apps, using the apps for free, right? Well, okay. Well, first of all, shout outs to Tony. He created this app. I was actually already in the hobby when this thing came out. And it was magic, man. Like it was, because I wasn't using... I mean, first of all, it's way better than Battlescribe. I think that's something we can all agree on. Like, Battlescribe is great, and it serves a great function, particularly in 40K and in fantasy. It did quite well, but it just doesn't. It's just like way more convoluted, and it's hard to read compared to Warscroll Builder, which was totally free. He just made it. He didn't use any whatever, and the guy, I'm not complaining about this. None of this is directed at him at all. He is a hero of the people because he's been maintaining this thing. He was maintaining it for free for ages. And then GW hooked up with them. They put it on their website. But, he's got a life understandably, and he can't just be updating this thing ostensibly for free all the time. So, like, huge shout outs to Tony, who made this. I've actually, years ago I contacted him to let him know when things were wrong or whatever, and he always responded, and he was super nice. So anyway, so this part of this comes from who was it on the Discord? And by the way, if you want to join the Discord, link in the description below. There was someone in the Discord who brought this up.
Brought what up? I'm not sure.
The whole Warhammer Plus thing.
Oh, I mean, it's been going on. It's been going hot the whole day. The latest one I see is Logan, Sigmar.
Logan was, I think he was the one, right, who went to like subscribe.
Oh, I see.
I can't remember.
No, I think it was Ludivicus. Yeah,
Ludivicus? Yeah. Okay. So Ludivicus, that's who I wanted to say, but then I couldn't remember. So Ludivicus went to, he's like, you know what? Like, this new app is coming out. Actually, could you talk about the app? Because I don't. Or did they talk about it in this article?
In the Warscroll Builder article?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So I don't have that ready. I don't know where it is.
Oh, the app article? I'll send it to
Yes. Perfect.
Here.
But that was Ludivicus. I thought it was you.
Start, everyone. No, so basically we got the news today that after Warscroll Builder being retired, we're getting a new app for iOS, which is a question that was on everyone's minds, I think. We were like, okay, we have this existing app, are they just going to keep it and refresh all the War Scrolls we have, maybe update the army builder because there's some stuff that's not compatible, or are we getting a new app? And it was confirmed that today we are, in fact, getting a new app. However, it seems like they're following the exact same template that they're following with the 40K app. Much to literally everyone's chagrin, I think.
Everyone's,
and if you don't know, basically the 40K app functionally is pretty similar to the Age of Sigmar app we have right now. And it's
worse.
It's not a broken app. It's not
not broken.
Buggy, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The issue is that it's just paywall stacked on top of paywall. And for context, the existing app that we have right now is you can view everyone's War Scrolls totally free, no problem. You can build as many lists as you want for whatever armies you want. And if you want access to like enhancements and very specific battle traits and stuff, that's when you have to buy a physical book and you get a code that you can put into the app and redeem. The 40K app is kind of the same, except the War Scrolls are not available for everyone to see, and you can only build one list total until you can get to, or until you have to subscribe to Warhammer Plus to do like multiple lists. So not only are you having to pay money for the rules for your army, but you're also having to pay money to see other people's rules at all, which is just a really clunky experience, especially in tournaments. But you also have to pay yet again for Warhammer Plus to be able to make multiple lists and kind of theory craft without just completely nuking whatever progress you have. The issue is, in Canada, Warhammer Plus is not possible to subscribe to. So if you go and try and subscribe to Warhammer Plus in Canada, it gives you a big old screen that says you are blocked, and borderline accuses you of like trying to either hack their website or submit like malicious code, or you said something or inputted text that was banned or something like that. When in reality, what it is that, and part of this is on the Canadian lawmaker side, where
it is,
in order for it to be like considered a legal subscription service with news and whatnot, they have to have like French equivalents of all of their stuff, which for GW is like a huge overhead to do. And
well, I think it's, you have to have a certain percentage of your content has to be original French programming.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't know
I
that
think
part,
it's
but
more harsh than that. Yeah.
Yes. But regardless, there's this restriction that the Canadian government has put on these services, which does suck.
It's asinine, it's bullshit, and they should go fuck themselves. It's so short-sighted, I absolutely hate it. Like, what they expect these small, like every small website to just make content in French? Like, what if you're in China? What if you're in fucking Israel? Sorry. But like, it is so stupid. Like, and like that's so fuck the Canadian government, fuck everyone that made that, right? Okay, sorry. I just need to get that out of the way, and now please proceed with the rest.
Yeah. However, GW did not accommodate or like think about this, I think, in that unless there's something that they're not telling us and the Canadians are going to get some sort of special exception, that basically means that all Canadians are locked to just having one list ever.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, and
like that's
so
we couldn't even pay for this paywall if we wanted to.
No. So they're actually encouraging us to go use Battlescribe and these other like crappy apps that aren't suitable for AOS, right? Like, what are you going to do if you're in Canada? Like, so actually there is a way around it. It's if you've already subscribed, you'll be grandfathered in. And I don't know if you can renew your subscription. It's automated. That's another bone to pick I have with GW is they charge me for it. I emailed them back right away, like that the night it happened, and was like, you shouldn't have charged me for this. They never responded, right? I never got a refund. So I'm not even sure if I'm happy about it still, because I don't watch anything on Warhammer Plus. I don't think it's, Astartes hasn't put out anything new. So like there's nothing that I'm interested in on there. I've watched some of it. Like the Dark Oath one was okay and like blah blah. Anyway, sorry. Please continue.
So I guess like basically the big thing is that a lot of people are afraid that this is going to be exactly like 40K, which was like really widely hated. In that while the initial indexes are free for everyone to view, as soon as each book gets released, you basically get like cut off from being able to view the rules for that army. And the reason why that sucks is that while I will say the vast majority of like Age of Sigmar players are like very kind, honest people, A, mistakes can happen and you can no longer double check your opponent's rules without having to buy their book. And B, this just kind of gives people who do cheat an extra leg up where it's just like, you can't verify my rules unless I'm like showing you my phone essentially, right? Or you just happen to own the same army as me. Yeah. So it's just a really crappy way of forcing you to buy something. And
crappy? Is that the word you're looking for?
Shitty. Sorry, it's shitty.
Thank you.
And it's taking a page out of the book of like so many mobile games where they're not really getting you to pay for something extra. They're taking something away and making you pay to get it back. And it just feels shitty. This is like the first thing out of this whole like 4th edition drip feed that has like genuinely kind of pissed me off. It's bad.
And are you sorry, and I'm just to be clear, and I'm not trying to rehash anything. Does that include the cull?
Kind of. Yeah. Like the cull, it was something was just like I see what they were going for. They could have delivered it better.
Yep.
And I'm sorry for the people that happened to it. Well, I guess the Beast of Chaos thing, it sucked. But like this is one of those situations where I'm being a turd and those things didn't particularly affect me directly. And I'm like, I feel bad for my friends, but this is like it just affects everyone, right? In a really bad way.
Yeah.
And the only reason they're doing it is just purely to make more money because they have a functioning app.
Right.
They have
absolutely
like everything that we needed. Sure, they needed to rebuild like list construction, but as far as like viewing war scrolls and like organizing all of your stuff goes, like they could have just reused what they had. Like there's zero reason other than trying to just squeeze more money out of you.
And like honestly, it doesn't get more money from us. It's getting less money for us. If they had offered you, Carson, right? Let's say they just said, okay, man, can the Canadian government be whack, y'all? We're going to make it possible so that people can have access to it all over the world. Just the app. It'll be less money, $5 a month, whatever. And all you get is the AOS app. You still have to unlock your content with the battle tomes. Most people are going to do that. First of all, and by the way, we don't know that the war scrolls are going. We don't know that we're going to lose access to the war scrolls. We have never not had full access to all war scrolls in all of Age of Sigmar history since the absolute beginning. It used to be a thing you downloaded from the website, right? So I hope that that's not going to. If that goes to, like, not only is it greedy and whatever and awful and everything else, but it's also just this stupid decision because, like, the amount of armies that I have gotten into just by looking at other war scrolls, like, they should do this in 40k too, but they're all still used to paying for their war scrolls or their data sheets or whatever they call them. But, like, this is such a colossal fuck up for their own bottom line. I can't even, like, begin to like say how stupid I think this is. Like, that's putting aside the fact, and Carson and I mean, a lot of people, like, I think they've talked about this on most channels, but if they went to some kind of cool digital system where you paid a monthly fee and you just got the rules, like, as Carson was saying this before the show, like, it, you know, even as much as like $10 a month, which is like more expensive than just Warhammer Plus, right? If you just got access to it, like, we'd all be so much happier.
Yeah. I would easily pay $10 a month to just have access to the rules, all of them, right? And that makes total sense to me, where it's just like, here's a subscription fee for, like, all competitive content. But the fact that, like, it's not even easy to do this stuff, and that's the problem that we're saying this is like, let's say you want to get access to someone else's rules, like, you either have to get a book shipped to you, or you have to physically go to a store just to get that tiny code inside just to be able to unlock it. There isn't like a like one-click purchase that so many, like, mobile games and stuff like that are relying on. So it's not even smart. It's just it's just lazy greed is what it is.
It's lazy and incompetent greed. Like, and we're not trying to be negative. I don't think we're known for that. Like, you know, when it came, like, they showed Skaven miniatures, and I literally threw actual, real Canadian money at my camera with joy overload. And unfortunately, my you know, like, the sound wasn't great on my end or whatever. So, like, it kind of, it didn't necessarily work as well. But, like genuinely love, you know, this. I forgot. I've still got this. You have been blocked on the screen, and I didn't realize because, like, I've sized it for the regular GW articles, and then it's just, Uri, you've been blocked. I'm not going to resize it now. It was just to kind of give people an idea of what we were looking at. Anyway, it sucks, and I'm sorry to everyone that's affected by it. You know, like, including us, obviously. I mean, actually, like, I am currently subscribed. I don't know what I'll do. Like, I'll have to kind of see how it shakes out. But you know what? Like, at the moment, like, like, another reason why this is really stupid is they're creating an opportunity. Remember back in the day, there were no building apps. GW didn't make anything, right? That's how Battlescribe was born, and it took over, right? And I think it's still going now, even though the guy, like, literally doesn't update it and whatnot. And that's a whole other can of worms. But, like, this is an opportunity for someone else to not use, like, you know, you can't use any images or whatever else, like the guy who made Warscroll Builder. Like, this is actually an opportunity for someone to make an app, make a website, or both that locks into each other. And, you know, as long as you have a good way of punching out a list in text, and by the way, weirdly, the Apple version of the AOS 3 app is worse, because, like, when it punches things out, it adds a bunch of extra spacing and everything, so it's, like, really long and way harder to read for some reason. So, like, if you have access to the AOS 3 Android version, take a look at how that punches out a list. It's basically perfect. And model it after that. And it's an opportunity for someone, man. Some enterprising developer, you know?
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, that's basically that, I think.
Yep.
Like the app.
We'll move on, but I do want to say one thing.
Okay.
you don't have to pay for Battle Scribe, so we can just use Battle Scribe. Like that might end up what it ends up being, but like you don't have to pay for Battle Scribe. But like they earned so much goodwill with me for not having to like write out a handwritten list. I paid for Battle Scribe. It was like $6 a year or something stupid, like just stupid cheap before, right? And it also gets you access to their like dice roll calculator, like odds calculator thing or whatever. Yeah, anyway, I'll stop. We're not trying to be negative, but I promised Ludivicus a proper rant, and I hope I delivered. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, eh?
I guess if there's one thing that we can take away from that rant is that in the best case for this app, it's going to be the exact same as the AOS 3 app, except you also have to have Warhammer Plus to have multiple lists.
Right.
That's the best case.
Right.
So that's the takeaway here, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, and if they have a plan for the the changeover, maybe they have all this planned out. I don't think so, because it's not generally how they act. You know what I mean? They don't seem to think of these things ahead of time. But yeah, honestly, like it like the frustration is partially just from the fact that like we want them to do better, and we're trying to give them a reason to give them more money, really. Like, I'm never going to buy every battle tome. I don't think you are. I don't think anyone is. There's Wahapedia, you know? So, like, a lot of people just function without battle tomes that would buy for it, like, in the app, if you could just pay, like, you know, like $20 or whatever and buy it in the app only. And I've done that in the past, too. Anyway, if they make an app where you can get access to content for a cheaper price and you can buy it in Canada, you know, we'll be much more likely to, you know, give them more money, right? Ludivicus was not disappointed. That's all I really care about, to be honest, you know? So now if you've had your headphones on, I'm going to try and keep the swearing down. Once you unleash that genie out of the bottle, though, it's pretty hard to stuff it back in there. I felt pretty good. But I'm going to try and, you know, keep it back, knock it down a notch. So there was a cool article that actually, this came out more than a week ago, and I meant to bring it up. But there's this Callis and Toll talk about the Skaven Menace. You can find it on Warhammer TV, not Warhammer Plus. It's on their YouTube channel, as you can see from this like little YouTube kind of icon here. It's really fun. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good douse of Age of Sigmar lore. It's like flavorful and fun. There's like lots of little bits, like the Fire Slayers being bouncers to the bar, and just like cool little things. And they just kind of talk about how things are going, and it gives you a much better sense of like the unfolding narrative, which I thought was really cool. So give it a watch. You know. Yeah. Do we need a swear jar? I'm usually pretty good. People usually make fun of me because I'm not swearing more, but I do it for the dads out there like me. You know, I used to be in like a really small apartment and my kid was running around, and like, you know, like I would enjoy some content. Like, for example, I don't need to make an example actually, but like I would enjoy like some content and then they would be swearing and I wanted to listen to it, but I couldn't because my kid was around. And then I never got to listen to it because like, you know, he'd go to bed and then I'd be too tired or whatever. You know, I don't want to give people a reason not to want to listen. You know, I want it to, you know, and it's also good for our algorithm. So that's why we were waiting 5 minutes. But the main thing is just, you know, for the other hobby dads. Speaking of hobby dads, they also came out with an article, the 7 best Black Library audiobooks to build Skaventide 2. I don't agree with this. Most of this list, to be honest. 2 words, or 1 word, or 2 words. There's many ways of different saying this, but all you need to know is Gordrak, Garrison, and the Slayer books, right? They're all really good. It doesn't matter if you're into the army. In fact, like the ones by Darius Hinks, I would start with what they have here. This is the one I agree with. Realm Slayer by David Geimer. It's actually like a play. It's an audio play, and it's shorter. But you can get it on Audible with just like one of the credits and whatnot. And then I would listen to that, and then I would listen to just all of the Darius Hinks. I haven't listened to the new one. There's like a new guy took over, and it's like Nurgle Slayer or Blight Slayer or something like that. And I haven't listened to that one, but all the Darius Hinks ones are fantastic. So I just do those. You know, reading is too smooth for my brain. you have to listen. Is that the crinkly brain way? I don't know. I thought reading would be the crinkly brain, and the smooth brain is just listening while you're doing yard work or lifting weights or something.
Maybe if you have a smooth brain, the words just bounce off. So you gotta...
That's true. I could see that as well. I appreciate the sentiment, though. Like, and Matthew says the Callis and Toll books are really good. I mean, I could see that. I haven't read them, but like, I mean, who are the Callis and Toll books? Aren't they on this list? Callis and Toll. Richard Strachan. I don't know. I haven't read anything by him. If it's by David Geimer, you're probably safe. Definitely Darius Hinks. And then there's like some of the other big names there, but they don't tend to do a lot of AOS content. I don't think William King is writing anymore. Anyway, but there's a recommendation for Matthew. If it sucks, blame Matthew. Don't blame this guy, because I haven't read them. I have heard that they're good, though. So, and then moving right along, we got the big preview. I mean, we knew it was coming, but this Saturday? This Saturday, you're going to be able to pre-order Skaventide, the box. I've already got my pre-orders in.
Too?
Well, I'm buying a box, and then I'm giving the dirty, icky, shiny boys to someone else who may or may not want to remain, whatever. They've been on the channel before, but yeah, I'm basically getting 2 halves of Skaven. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes. So excited. So freaking excited.
So 80 clan rats, huh?
80 clan rats. I mean, I don't have that many painted. I have more than 80 painted for the old clan rats. I own like 300 clan rats. But my thinking was, when the old world came out, I wanted to have like a totally separate Skaven army that would fit on 20 millimeter squares. I'll probably sell some of those because as much as I wanted it to be, the old world doesn't really suit me as much. And also I can use the current clan rats that I have, like the 25 millimeter rounds works because they upped the base size, which was very smart of them. So nice. Yeah, Ludivicus is getting a double set of the, yeah. It honestly, like, I had a couple of people sort of like balk at the price, but this is still like, I think it's still the best deal we've ever gotten. Like,
not bad. What is it? 320 Canadian? Right?
320 Canadian, and you get. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So sorry, you get more miniatures than we've ever gotten in any box set, to my knowledge. I'm almost positive that that's true, right? Like the sheer weight of plastic. Maybe not because there was the Horus Heresy one, and I know that one was fat, like PHAT, fat, but I don't know about that one, right? Because that one was like $400 Canadian, right? But in terms of like their main games, AOS and 40K, there's more miniatures in here, I think, than we've ever gotten, not including terrain. And then we've got the Fat Core rulebook. We're getting the GHB included in there, which has never happened before. That's like $50 value. And then we're also getting the Spearhead. And the Spearhead is going to be garbage to a lot of people. Hopefully not myself. I'm reserving judgment. Don't judge me. I'm not judging them, okay? Judge not, lest you be judged. Okay? But, like, even if you just say, like, that's garbage, right? You throw it out the window, right? Into the recycling bin, because you keep your recycling bins outside your window.
Yeah.
Obviously. So, but even if you do that, and I'm not recommending that you do, take the GHB cost off. Okay, it's cards, so it's not going to be worth as much. What they're going to definitely charge you at least $30, $40 Canadian for that. Like, it sucks, but it's true, right? And actually, I kind of think I kind of prefer cards anyway, to be honest. But let's say they charge us more. Okay. So, like, or let's say they charge us less. Let's say, what? $30 minimum, right? That takes it down to $290. Okay. Leviathan was $300. No one was complaining about that. We're throwing out the Spearhead book, even though we shouldn't, right? Even if you just like what is like that little thing of terrain going to cost you? Like a big thing, like a big one piece of terrain is like $100. So like 4 little walls, like can we say $20 for that? No, let's say $30 for that. There's no way they're ever going to charge less than they're not charging $30 for anything anymore, right? So we'll say $30 for that just to be fair. We're now down to $260, which is what Dominion costs, and we're getting way more. This is my favorite Skinhead podcast. How many do you listen to? That's my first question.
That's kind of concerning.
Yeah.
Yourself, actually.
Yeah. That's a self-burn. Just kidding. We know you're not. Actually, maybe we don't know that. I'm going to keep my mouth closed. Anyway, 260. This is like a good rant, right? This is a good rant. We went with a bad rant. Now there's a good rant. That's a lot of plastic for like 260, right? Now I guess you could make the art Canadian. Yeah, Canadian. It's like 4 American pesos. It's nothing, right? But like anyway, I actually think it's. Oh man, yeah. I'm sorry, Keith. Those poor Australian bastards.
Yep.
It's like everyone has like yeah, idiot. It's like everyone has a thing that they get to say where it's like, you know, the Americans are like, well, at least we're not Canadian because they pay like, you know, 25% more. You know, we're like, well, at least we're not Australian. They're paying like 33% more, you know? But and then the Australians go, well, at least we're not New Zealanders. They pay like however much more they pay. But I don't think the New Zealanders get to say it about anything.
I don't think so. At least we're not those guys at the scientific research base on Antarctica. Those guys pay huge premiums for Warhammer.
Yeah, they have to pay like $600 in shipping. That's true. Yeah. And what else are you going to do in Antarctica? GW, open up a store in Antarctica. You will have like an actual monopoly on that entire continent.
How many other businesses can say that?
Yeah, exactly. They'll pay whatever it takes, if it means warmth. That rant, actually, I lost control of that rant. I'm willing to admit that. Anyway, I am suitably excited, beyond excited. I can't wait. We are planning and hoping. We're still working out some of the kinks, but we're still planning on doing a battle report on release day. Probably not with these exact miniatures, but hopefully with something, you know.
Yeah. Maybe some cups and cans.
Yep.
And a can is like, what is that, like a 60 mil base? Right?
Yeah, I think it's like 80 mil, maybe 100.
Maybe 100. Yeah.
Or it depends if we're talking about a dog can or we're talking about like a Coke can. A Coke can's probably more like 60.
Yeah, Coke can.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I actually have a question. Like, so wait, why wouldn't we use other miniatures?
Well, you can't do that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Wait, why is that again?
Because you can't.
Okay, I forgot. You are the Lord of the Meat Dimension, so I should listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, more talk of meat.
Question. Don't question me again.
Ooh, I like the voice. is based on the price of the penguin feed. It's out of control. Yes, I've heard that. So we got a couple of quick things to go over before we get to the piece de resistance. We got a couple more faction focuses. I'm going to prevent myself from doing a third rant because I think it's like a bad idea. But I'll just say this. And this isn't directed at the Khorne players. That's just the first one that came up on my screen. It's not directed at anyone. It's not directed at any faction or any person. If you didn't like your faction focus, okay, and you're not seeing the power of your list, you still don't really know anything. You know, we got little snippets. We got the battle traits. And let's say you're not happy with those, because I've seen people ranting about one of these 3 that I've got up. And I've heard that one of the 3 that people have been complaining about is very strong for people who have access to the rules. So don't worry. Don't worry your pretty little heads. It will be okay. And if it's not, they'll fix it. This is the best time of an edition. If you're a Johnny, it is the best time you will probably ever have in this game. Because it's the Wild West. No one knows anything. Coming after your Khorne.
The first tournament that you show up to... The first tournament you show up to after the release of 4th is probably going to be insane.
It's so
And we're going to be looking back at the list like a year from now being like, what were any of us thinking?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Just absolutely
and like,
wild combos.
I've even seen like creators, like people on YouTube and different things, like complaining about some of the faction focuses, which boggles my mind. Like, unless that person has full access to the rules, and there's no way that they do, because if the creators had access to rules and or points, which we know that they don't, by the way, and then they would have leaked by now. They would have leaked by now. And a disclaimer before we get to it, we are going to be talking about the rules. Some rules have leaked. We're not going to show any of them on screen. Carson, could you do the disclaimer? You actually came up with it.
Yeah. So the big thing is that we are not, just full disclaimer, we are not part of the GW Content Creator Program.
Thank you.
Therefore, we are not going to be previewing rules early. But certain other content creators have talked about rules in certain depth that are part of the Content Creator Program. So we're taking that as a liberty to say that we can talk about the information that they have given us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we will be talking about and chatting about the core rules and stuff like that, but we're not going to be showing screenshots on the screen or anything like that, and spreading any sort of leaks that have happened online. So that's your disclaimer. Goodbye.
Yep. So with that said,
let's not talk about the core rules and instead move on to the faction focuses.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about. Okay, so now we got to talk about stupid cornhole, and I'm coming directly after you. Who said that? Lord Castellan?
Relish.
No, Relish. This is I suck, Castellan. It can't be Khorne, which people are complaining about. Blood Tithe looks strong in this edition, absolutely, and it's not them. But actually, I won't put my foot in my mouth. Did you get a chance to read through the Khorne on the cob, the label of your cream corn?
It says Western Family.
Oh, okay.
And then 355 milliliters, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty good.
Nice.
And then I also saw this article from Games Workshop.
Okay.
Coherency.
Coherency. I believe it's Coherency.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So uncultured.
Yeah, idiot.
Yeah, I did see it. So basically, Khorne is they've lost. First and foremost, they've lost Murder Lust. It's gone.
Yes.
Or sorry, it's not gone. Well, it is there. It's literally right there. My bad. It's not gone, but they've lost it in the way that we know it.
Yes, it's different.
Yes. So the reason why the way that I'm basically getting to this first because this was a source of contention, even though there's 3 more rules before it. Murder Lust is currently, like in 3rd edition, at the end of the hero phase, you can spend a blood tithe point for up to 3 units, and then they can
Yeah.
move d6 inches, and they can move into combat if you want to in any hero phase. The issue is that now they've changed it to be any movement phase, and you can only pick one. So the issue with that is not that you can only pick one. That's not the worst thing. Most people are only doing one anyway. The issue is so in the previous edition, like in our current edition, at the end of the hero phase, that's before your opponent gets to make any moves whatsoever. And that's extremely powerful because what you can do is you can sprint up to your opponent just outside of 3 inches, and then at the end of their hero phase, murderlust d6 inches into combat and effectively lock them there. Murderlust now is in any movement phase, yes. However, the way that movement works, as we found out in the core rules, is that the active player has to resolve all of their abilities first, and then the inactive player resolves all of their abilities in a given phase. So what that means is that the active player is going to be moving like all of their models around, and then after all of your opponent's models have moved, then you can use Murderlust, and it's exactly 3 inches, so it's super predictable. So what that means is your opponent can basically just end 6.1 inches away from you to ensure that you can never Murderlust effectively into them.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the case now. You're like shutting people's movement down. So it's not great compared to what it was. So that's like the big change, essentially.
It's true. Now, I don't think that this is necessarily the worst thing in the world. Like, I think it's still quite strong, but it's not what it was.
Yeah.
Now, and they have other abilities too, right? So it's not like, but yeah. Now, try to remember everything that Carson just said, because there will be a test in a minute when we get to another faction focus.
Yes. So the big thing is that so for Khorne, blood tithe is still the same. Anytime any unit dies, the Khorne player gets 1 blood tithe. And then basically what they can do is there's 5 abilities here that they can be spending blood tithe on. I just covered Murderlust, which you just spend 1 blood tithe and pick 1 Blades of Khorne unit. And then the other one is Spell Eater Curse, which is kind of how we currently understand it, where it's just you spend 2 blood tithe and you can unbind a spell immediately. We've got Slaughter Triumphant, which is you spend 8 blood tithe points. And then you can pick one of the following effects. Add 1 to the attack's characteristics of melee weapons used by friendly Blades of Khorne for the rest of the battle. Or pick a friendly, non-unique Bloodthirster unit that has been destroyed, and then set it up on the battlefield, or an identical replacement unit, set it up on the battlefield 9 inches away from all enemy units. So you can be bringing back a Bloodthirster, basically. Then you have Brass Skull Meteor, which is 4 blood tithe points. You roll 8 dice, and for each 3 up, it's a mortal wound on the target, or mortal damage, sorry. My bad. 4th edition terminology. And then you have Heads Must Roll, which is 6 blood tithe points, and then you add 1 to Ren characteristics of melee weapons used by friendly Blades of Khorne units for the rest of the turn. So there's some interesting stuff here. It's definitely more like kind of what I imagine Khorne to be, where it's just like, I want to come smack you and I hate magic. It's not as like movement shenanigans. Murderlust is a thing, but it's clear that they're trying to make it so that like you're just using it to move closer to your opponent, essentially, instead of it being like move tech or like anti-move tech. So
yeah, this does feel much more like fluffy, for lack of a better word. But what's funny is for a long time now, Khorne has been very like techy and like Johnny and kind of blue deck magic kind of. It's had that kind of feel to it. Whereas you think it would be like attracting the Timmies. So maybe that's what they're trying to do, is kind of bend it back to what you would think the most of the Khorne players like naturally want. Now we know that that's not the case for our friend Matthias. He is extremely techy, extremely blue deck, and very Johnny and whatnot. So while this might not be great for him, I think it will be probably, it might be good for others. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any?
Speaking of Matthias,
Yep.
Good luck to Matthias at AOS Worlds this weekend.
Yeah.
With Team Canada. Good
He's
luck to
off
Team
to-
Canada in general.
Good luck to Team Canada. Bad luck to everyone else. That's what
Everyone.
everyone.
Yeah, every single person.
He's
Even
off
Dan,
to.
who's going there to cast.
Yeah. Break a leg, Dan. As they say.
Literally.
Yeah. Ooh, give me chills. Do we want to talk about any of the Warscrolls or anything like that?
Yeah, we can kind of touch on them a little bit. They've got their battle formation, which is basically what's it called? It's once per turn, army-wide reaction to you declaring a fight ability with a friendly Blades of Khorne demon unit, and then you can basically chain activate with a Bloodbound unit wholly within 12. That's kind of that. And then you've got the Hexgorger Skulls, which they showed us. Except no, they didn't. I'm realizing they showed us just the summoning of Hexgorger Skulls, and not the actual War Scroll for it. All right then.
That's such a weird choice. I think someone pointed that out on our Discord, or the Warp Dice one maybe.
That'd be like if they shared Mystic Shield is a casting value 5, and that's all
Yeah.
they said. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's so weird. Did they show any of the prayers, the summoning prayers or whatever?
Didn't seem like it. We did see the Bloodthirster,
I mean,
which is just a straight up beat stick. At this point.
by the way, just to point out, if you were worried about your faction focus, think about how some of these are laid out, right? You know what I mean? Like, we clearly are missing huge chunks of everything. Okay, sorry. So, did you say move on to the Bloodthirster?
Yeah, we saw the Bloodthirster.
This is cool.
Moves 12 inches, flies. It just has a 5-up ward now. It doesn't have to be outside of 8 inches.
That's
So
amazing.
that's pretty good.
No kidding. Like, that's
Great
a
Axe of
huge
Khorne
upgrade.
is like, good God. Like,
Holy
attacks,
mother.
3s, 2s, red 2, 5 damage flat is crazy.
Yeah.
Outrageous Carnage is each time an attack made by this unit scores a critical hit, inflict D3 mortal damage on each enemy unit within 8 inches of it after the fight ability has been resolved. So it's like roll 6s, roll multiple D3s. It's yikes.
Wow.
And then you've got Shattering Charge, which is a rampage at the in any charge phase. If this unit charged this turn, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target. Roll a D3 on a 2-up, inflict mortal damage on the target equal to the roll, or just 3 if it's infantry. So you basically got like impact hits. But yeah, it's pretty slappy, and it's not complicated whatsoever, which kind of like lends itself to the argument that you were saying before, where they're trying to like refocus Khorne back onto Timmy. It seems. Yeah. Not to say that there won't be tech, but
no, there clearly will be. Like, there is still a lot of, in-depth kind of tech and shenanigans you can definitely pull. It's just not it's not exactly what it was. But this is so cool. Like, the Bloodthirster traditionally was like the hideous unit in the game, right? Like, or it's always been one of the scariest units in the game. And 5 attacks, hitting on 3s. So that's reliable, right? Like, most monsters are hitting on 4s. It's hitting on 3s. You can still all attack it. So you could be hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, with up to 3 rend and 5 flat damage. That's crazy. That's so smacky. I love it. And that's not even including mortal wounds you get on any of them. Yeah. And now a 5-up ward? This thing's legitimately scary.
Yeah, a 5-up ward is this is almost the same profile as Kragnos, because Kragnos is now 18 wounds on a 4-up with a 5-up ward. This is 16 wounds on a 4-up with a 5-up ward, and it's faster and it can fly. So yikes. That's
no,
pretty scary.
16 wounds. Holy crap. I didn't even think about it. I was going to say it's almost the same profile as the Vermin Lords, but they were 13 wounds. This is 3 extra wounds. And now the 5-up ward. Oh, man.
Yep.
Ugh. Okay.
Bloodletters, which mostly the same.
Yep.
Except at the end of any turn, you can return D3 slain models if it's in combat. And then another thing is that they did get a 6-up ward. So it just seems like demons are getting wards now.
Wow.
They showed us Karanak, which basically still has it's unbind, or right? Did I just forget what this is doing?
Why is this not the Ironjawz chat, Alex?
Yeah. Sorry, it doesn't have an unbind.
It's coming, Alex.
Yeah. But yeah, they showed us Karanak, they showed us the Blood Warriors. Pretty interesting, but for the sake of time, we can probably just skip on to the next one.
I think that's a good idea.
If you want.
But Blood Warriors, I just want to point out they are still 2 health and a 3-up save, which just on its own is, they're very tanky.
Blood Warriors still got murder rolls as well, essentially.
Right. Oh, and someone said, Lord Castlin said, the only faction that seems bad is Slaanesh. I would wait. First of all, I would wait because we don't know what they're going to do with the spare keywords. What was it again? I forget. But already, our buddy... What's that?
Euphoric?
Euphoric, thank you. Yeah, we don't know how that interacts with everything else. And you have agency over the dice rolls. And on top of that, we have friends that are, even with that short amount of information, have come up with ways of making them legitimately scary. Most of your army hitting and wounding on 2s, running and charging, and I can't remember what else they came up with, mortals on crits instead of additional hits. Really scary stuff. I actually don't think that they're bad at all. I don't think they're even the worst one. But we'll see. I could be wrong, and I'm not saying that they're strong. By the way, what I'm saying, just to be clear, is we don't even have half the picture of these armies. We've got maybe a 10th, right? So
it's also worth mentioning that almost the entirety of third, pretty much every faction sat between 45 and 55% win rate.
Exactly.
Any very skilled player can take the worst quote unquote win rate army and win a GT with it, right?
Yep.
If you like an army for a specific reason, be it theme or how the army looks or something like that, chances are you can find a good way to excel with that army. So I've never really understood the whole how upset people are getting about these faction focuses. It doesn't make sense.
I don't either. And I could talk about what what Carson did with ogres. They were sitting at 45-46% when you started playing them, and you ended up the number 1 ogres player. But you won multiple tournaments before and since. Ended up the 4th highest player in the world. Or to suck my own self off, I was Skaven's my favorite army when they were the worst win rate in the game. They had the worst win rate in the game. I took them up against Soulblight Gravelords, which had the highest win rate in the game, and I won. It's perfectly possible. It's the same thing in Street Fighter and everything else. And by the way, this is not directed at you, Lord, my lord, in the chat, or anyone else. It's a very prevalent thing, and we'll see. And I think part of the problem in everyone's defense that is kind of freaking out about this, I think that these faction focuses are not great. And it's especially bad if you're maybe a spike, or maybe if you're kind of more of an orderly player where you don't like the chaos of not knowing a lot of what's going on and it's giving you anxiety. I actually get all of that, but I really, I would just try and wait for it. If you do have any Johnny tendencies, this is going to be the most fun you have in the whole edition, is when everything just hits the streets and then everyone's just scrambling and trying to figure stuff out. It's going to be great. Yeah. And Ludivicus, it's totally... Ludivicus says, I'm still a bit chapped, to be honest. But even I can admit it's better to wait and see after indexes. The faction focuses were just poorly done. They're not great, they're not greatly done. And then on top of that, I mean, Gits too, Gits came out when, there was... We hadn't seen anything. They were the 3rd one out. So we didn't realize that everything was being dialed back so far. on their abilities and whatnot. So like the Gits one was particularly hard because it was just like, whoa, what is going on here? You guys nerfed us like 5 times in a row, and now you're taking everything away. Like our win rate is so low. What are you doing this for? But like it turns out like everyone's kind of getting nerfed to a certain extent. And like there's stuff that like if like we saw like the Warscroll for Morsar Guard, for example, and like but it was for Spearhead, right? And a lot of them have been different. So I'm just holding off. Like, if that's the Warscroll, I'm actually not happy about that at all, right? But we don't know. You know, like, that's for Spearhead. I don't really care about Spearhead. So we'll see. You know what I mean? But, like, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, sorry. I was like, I'm not going to do another rant. Proceeds to rant.
Just in the chat, imagine seeing IJ in 3rd edition without saying War Chanters. Damage one army?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, oh, yeah. That's so true. Anyway.
Yeah. Do we want to do Sylvaneth or do we want to do...
Sure, let's... So I've got Sylvaneth up next, because Ironjawz... Okay. So, actually, I'll just say it. The one I've heard people complaining about, which blows my mind, is actually Ironjawz, right? And anyway, so battle traits, Sylvaneth, the trees, okay? Pick any number of friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 inches of a friendly awakened wildwood to be the targets. That's wholly within, by the way. Heal D3 each target. This is going to be difficult. But I'll go through them all. Strike and Fade is now pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is in combat and is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly awakened wildwood. Again, it's wholly within. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from enemy units and within 6 inches of an awakened wildwood. And this is both turns. So there is Strike and Fade in both turns, but it's at the end of the turn. So they fully get to strike back. And then once per turn, army, your movement phase, pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is not in combat, wholly within 6 inches of a Awakened Wildwood. Remove that unit. It's basically teleport. Only now, it's instead of it being 9 inches, it is 6 inches. So I actually think that this is probably the roughest battle traits we've seen so far.
It's not looking great. I will say the Warscrolls below definitely bring it back up to par. I would say. Totally. But wholly within 6 inches is going to be very tough.
It's so tough, and there's not awakened like terrain plus the faction terrain that you can kill them now, right? And remove them from the battlefield. So, you know what they had before didn't work, so they did need to make a change. But making it wholly within 6, like you can, if your opponent just sits 7 inches outside of your terrain, then there's nothing that they can do.
Yeah, I think I understand GW's line of thinking in that striking fade kind of is a feel bad for someone who doesn't really know how to deal with it and doesn't know how to screen. Like that sort of stuff, or doesn't have
totally
screening
agree.
units.
Absolutely. Yep.
But I think it being end of the turn solves that problem somewhat. Yep. Where it's like, okay, you can come teleport in, you can hit me, but I get to hit you back before you teleport away. I think that's like a fair trade.
Yep.
I think that combining that with like the very much so shrunk down auras, or like the ranges from the trees is maybe a step too far. But I mean,
it's not
who's
just
to know where it's going to end up. Right?
And we don't play this faction, by the way, just as a disclaimer.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's not just a shrunken range. It's also less terrain that you get to do that with.
Yeah.
There's overgrown terrain, and then there was also your wildwoods, and you could summon more wildwoods. So, I mean, I'm not, but I'm still, by the way, I'm still not saying it's bad. I'm still saying we don't know anything. I just think against a good player, this is going to be very difficult. But again, all that said, we don't know anything.
Yeah, maybe they just end up being beat sticks that you just can't deal
with. That is a possibility, and I like that idea. I like the idea even of them just teleporting around. even in just their movement phase. Like strike and fade that's a new thing. That was only in 3rd edition. That wasn't in 2nd edition. That wasn't in 1st edition. So
yeah,
we'll
Justin
see.
brings up a good note in the chat, which is that we also haven't seen one more of their battle traits, which is the Wildwood Scroll itself.
Yep.
Which is true.
Although we do know, though, from the core rules that if you have a terrain piece, you have to set up every single piece of those.
Yes.
So
yeah, you can't do the whole like set up one. Or well, maybe there's like an exception in the Wildwood Scroll or something too. You never know.
Fingers crossed, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to put it down a lot of the time now.
Yeah, but we do see a spell, which is, or no, sorry, we see the we do see a spell, but also their battle formation is basically just you can heal 3 friendly Sylvaneth monsters instead of D3 whenever you're using endless growth with it, like the wholly within 6 inches of the trees thing. So a little bit more healing going on there, and then they've got the
You said monsters?
Yeah.
Is it monsters?
Friendly Sylvaneth monsters can heal 3 instead of heal D3.
Or am I looking at the wrong thing? Is it Tree Song?
Healing Song.
Oh,
That's
I'm
above
sorry.
Tree Song. Yeah.
Got it.
But we do see Tree Song,
Right.
which is basically their it's their way of bringing back trees to the board. So we saw with this.
That's where I thought you were going with it.
We saw with the Skaven battle traits at the beginning of every battle round, they were just bringing one back. But with Sylvaneth, if you have like 5 wizards or something like that, you can keep casting Tree Song to just fill the table back up with trees again.
That's true.
So it's a pretty good way of like getting your trees where you want them to be. So,
right.
Pretty nice.
And it is unlimited. You can't cast the same spell with the same hero, even if they've got 2 or 3 casts or whatever. But you could keep trying it. Even if you don't get one, you could still try it again. So
yeah, with your next wizard, exactly.
Yeah. And it does have to be 3 inches from enemy units. So that would be a way of kind of getting enemy units into range. And it is easier now than ever to get off spells. Because your wizard level, like my Vermin Lords now are only they're only like 1 magic level. They used to be 2, 2 casts, 2 unbinds, and now they're just 1 for the whole battle round, right? You get to pick one. So that's really like you're gonna have, and there's no more like pluses to unbind, it seems like. So this is gonna be a lot easier to achieve. And so again, it just kind of leads to the whole idea that there's probably more here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing is that I think this, as well as the Skaven like popping up terrain all over the board.
Yeah.
This is kind of like leading into the core rules that we talked about. There's one tidbit in the core rules, which is that faction terrain is now treated as a unit.
Yep.
Not in the movement phase, but for the purposes of the charge phase and the combat phase.
Right.
So what that means is that if you are within 3 inches of a faction terrain feature, you can't charge. However, you can charge into a faction terrain feature and use it as leverage to pile into something else. Right. So I think that good Sylvaneth players are going to use that to their advantage, where they're going to say, okay, I'm going to set up a tree exactly your movement characteristic away from you. And what that means is that you have to move. You can't move through it or around it or anything like that. Otherwise, you're going to be locked in combat if you're within 3 inches of it. So it's like a roadblock that you have to get through. Bad Sylvaneth players are going to pop up a tree right next to them, in front of them, and you're going to say, thanks for making my charge shorter, buddy. And then you charge the tree and pile into whatever you actually want to hit. And it's going to be really rough for them.
Right.
So, but more on that later.
Wait, that's the bad player?
Yeah. I think bad players are going to shoot themselves in the foot with the new faction terrain rules, like being able to charge them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Good players are going to use them as very, very good roadblocks.
Interesting. My question is, why not both? Like, couldn't you use them to make your charges super easy?
No, you can't charge your own faction terrain.
No, I know, but like, oh, I see what you're saying. I meant, sorry, right. That's true. Okay, so then, but like, couldn't you use them to like make it so that you can like strike and fade, though, and do things like that?
You could, yeah. But what I'm saying is that, let's say your opponent, like, you're the Sylvaneth player, you summon a tree like 5 inches in front of your front line or something like that.
Yeah.
Saying like, this is where I want to end up. Like I want to go strike and fade, and then I want to come back to this spot. However, your main ball of dudes is behind this tree 5 inches in front of you. Your opponent has to walk up, and they no longer have to worry about charging a unit that can redeploy further away from them. Now they have this tree that they can use as an anchor point, where you can charge the tree, get closer to the Sylvaneth units, charge with another unit, kill the tree, and then pile into the units that they actually want to kill, all while not having to charge nearly as far as they normally would. It's really good for deep striking units, where if you have like a bunch of units sitting next to faction terrain, and you have to set up outside of 9, you can still set up inside of 9 of the faction terrain. It's not counted as an enemy unit for that purposes.
Right.
For those purposes. So it's going to be really tricky, I think. Like,
yeah, that's kind of like
that,
an additional layer to it that I didn't really consider.
Yeah. And more on that later. Endless spells are treated the same way.
Right.
And predatory endless spells are just straight up treated like units. So anyway, moving on with the faction bonus. I just wanted to say that about the trees, like while we were kind of like on the topic, because Sylvaneth, I think that could be a way that they can leverage.
They might be, they could be kind of broken if that's true. Although if you do have to, like, unless they have the exception on their Warscroll for not having to set up every piece of the terrain, and it almost seems directed at them, because I can't even think of another faction terrain that... Oh, the boat. The IDK boat. But, like, unless there is an exception on there, and I bet there isn't, like, it won't be that easy to, like, put them down, even. Because, like, the print, or the what do you call it? The silhouette? Footprint, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that. Is very large for those things. Like, very, very big. Yeah, I mean the Skaven. Are you mean about putting the faction terrain down? Yeah, you can. You don't even need a spell. Although they did make a mistake on that master battle report thing. You don't get all 3 and then replace them. You just get, I think, 1.
Start with 1, and then you get 1 at the start of each battle round.
Right.
So it's in your first turn you should have 2. I think
2. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. And like there might even be like that might be like someone's Warscroll spell or something like that. There might be like a thing in Skaven too to just get more faction terrain on the board. So yeah. Here's hoping. So I do have Ariel up on the screen. What do you?
Royal Finest.
Hey, that is Chun-Li, and you know it. 14-inch move, 16 wounds, 3 up save, 5 control. That I think she lost 2 wounds, but I could be wrong. But she finally gained a ward of 6 up. Honestly, I think she should have a 5 up ward. Like, regrowth was a thing in even in the old world. Like, it's basically like you're healing as you're taking damage.
I think they're being careful about mixing, because she still has quite a bit. She used to heal 2d6 and now she only heals 2d3. But I think they're being very careful about introducing wards and healing at the same time.
That's true. That's a good point. Yep, I like it. The problem is like you could just kind of focus fire her down and she dies.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's got the spear, 1 attack, 2s and 3s at 12 inches, 2 rend, 4 damage. I never like to see 1 attack on anything, if I'm being honest. But, you know. Anyway, Spear of Kurnoth, 5 attacks, 3s and 2s, 2 rend, 2 damage. Nothing to write home about. 6 attacks, though, on the giant beetle. 4s and 2s, 2 rend, 4 flat damage. It's spicy, you know, hitting on 4s like most monsters are now, though. So the healing that you mentioned, Metamorphosis, with it going off on a 7 and a 12-inch range on an enemy unit. You inflict 2d3 mortal damage, though. And if it is targeted, if it's destroyed, you basically immediately resolve the Tree Song spell as if that unit had successfully cast it. I wish they had made it so that it basically goes as close as possible to that unit, just for flavor purposes, because otherwise you can just kind of you can just go somewhere else. Like you nuke them in front of you and then they pop up behind you and you're just like, well, that was weird, but yeah, it works out for me. Anyway, although the interesting thing about that too is like it's not. The tree song is unlimited, but she could cast both.
Yep. Yeah, she could do Tree Song, Metamorphosis, and then if she
Yeah.
kills something with Metamorphosis, it would count as her casting Tree Song a second time.
Yeah.
So take that, GW rules writers. We found a way around it.
Suck it, jerks. That's for Warhammer Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great rules overall, though. We're really liking the new edition. I just want to say that. But yeah, Right of Life. Pick a friendly... This is movement phase, by the way. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that has been destroyed to be the target. This unit can use this ability if it has been destroyed, but if it does, this unit must be the target. Okay. Roll a dice on a 4-up, set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up wholly within 9 inches of an awakened wildwood, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. If the target was a monster, allocate 8 damage points to the replacement unit. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. Yeah.
Yeah. So that confusing wording at the start basically means that if she's alive, she can revive any other unit. If she's dead, she has to pick herself.
Yeah.
On a 4-up, she can come back, basically.
Yeah. It's interesting. The weird thing is, though, I don't see anything where you can't pick a unit that's been destroyed twice.
In the core rules, so it specifically says a replacement unit. Right. In the core rules, there is usually terminology, and I think there still is in 4th, where it's like a replacement unit cannot be once again replaced.
Okay. We were used to seeing it, though, that it always says it on the actual rule. And...
Yeah, isn't it nice that there's just generic terminology for it instead of having to rewrite it like 80 times? It's pretty nice.
Yes and no. Like it depends on how well you remember the core rules, because I didn't remember that.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, and I mean, I've only read through them once now, but and generally, like, obviously, actually not generally speaking, like everyone obviously absorbs them better as they use the rules and run through them, and people remember different parts of them. Anyway, I hope that's true, because otherwise that would be a little bit much, obviously, especially because she can bring herself back multiple times.
Yeah.
Unkillable Ariel. That'd be kind of cool. The 4-up, I agree with Warpstone. When it comes to her, I think it should be like, if it was this unit, like it's on a 3-up or something, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that is like a 600-point model probably coming back to life on a 4-up with 8 wounds left, a 3-up save, and a 6-up ward. Like, that, I don't know, But she no longer gets the, get a free thing anymore. So that's interesting.
Yes. The summoning is gone in all facets. Summoning is just completely gone. But the important thing is that this can be done every one of your movement phases.
Yep.
So your opponent alpha strikes you, kills something, you can potentially bring it back. Next turn, you lose something, you can potentially bring it back. Like, it's more likely than not, you're probably only going to try and use it 3 or 4 times in a game, because most of the time something doesn't die the first turn. But still, it's pretty nice. It's good recursion, right?
It's true. And I mean, you'll get to use it on her potentially as well. I mean, you'll get to use it on her if she dies. So that it's sort of a bit of a, what's the word, like, a detractor in, like, going after her in a way, because it might just be like, sorry, she came back, the cat came back.
I do think, I'm pretty sure, you can keep trying to roll the 4-up for her. Let's say she gets nuked turn 1. I'm pretty sure every one of your movement, you can keep trying to roll the 4-up until you eventually get it.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. Because
there's nothing that says you can't target the same unit twice. It's just that you can't replace a replacement unit again.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah. And oh, wow. That's a really good call. Whoa. Ludivicus on fire in the chat. We don't disagree, as the rant proves. like once per game you get Right of Life automatically or on a 2-up, but then you can't use it again. Interesting. Or even if the choice was there, hey, Warpstone. That'd be interesting. Although, like, anyway, yeah, I don't mind that. Anyway, so living battering ram, army, any charge phase, if they charge, end within 1 inch, or you pick a unit within 1 inch, and then roll a dice on a 3-up, inflict that amount of mortal damage on the target. By the way, it says roll a dice. Don't roll a d3. Roll a dice. So, minimum 3 flat mortal damage. Pretty good.
If any.
If any, but it goes up to 6. We're used to seeing like roll a dice on a 2-up or a 3-up or a 4-up sometimes, inflict this many D3 mortal wounds or whatever, right? Obviously Kragnos, and there are exceptions out there. There was some with D6, but yeah, I think that's pretty spicy, and it's not hidden behind 2 rolls. Also, she's a 3 wizard. We already mentioned the 6-up board, so pretty cool. I do want to talk about Durthu real quick because he's a badass. 14 wounds, 3-up save. None of that's really changed. Verdant Blast, 5 attacks at 12 inches, 4s, 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage, blah, 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 blah. Right? Massive Impaling Talons, 2 attacks, 4s, 2s, 2 rend, 3 flat damage now. Crit mortal, by the way. Right? That's spicy. But now he's got 4 attacks, 3s and 2s. 3s and 2s. 2 rend, a 5 flat damage. And we don't know I don't think we know if we have the Greenwood Gladius either. Also anti-monster +1 rend. So he could be rocking 3 rend. So that's pretty sick.
The biggest weakness of Durthu used to be that his bracketing was really, really punishing. It immediately went from like 6 to D6 damage, I'm pretty sure, and then down to D3 after that, whereas this is always going to be 5 damage. And then if he does bracket, he has 4 wounds left. He's still got 3 attacks instead of 4. Still pretty good.
Still pretty good. And that's not even talking about his Massive Impaling Talons, which are definitely better as well, even though they're hitting on 4s. Anyway, also Titanic Duel. Pick a friendly monster to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3-up. Subtract 1 from the attacks characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of this turn. Yikes. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't apply to companions. Like, it seems to specifically target. So, like, if they're a hero, like, it says monster, it's a monster keyword. So if they're a hero on a monster, I think you just subtract 1 from everything. Right?
I'm pretty sure it does apply, because I'm pretty sure the restriction on companions is the attack sequence being, or the number of attacks being buffed by friendly abilities. I'm pretty sure that's the wording, but I might be wrong. It's still kind of fuzzy in my memory. So
yeah, same.
So, since this is an enemy unit doing it, I'm pretty sure it does apply.
Right. Anyway, yeah, and add 1 to hit rolls for this tax. If it targets, while the target is within 3 inches of an awakened wildwood. Not a lot you can do about that, because it's not like you can summon it into range. But if they happen to, like, you can put like wildwoods like around objectives and different things a lot easier now. Like I don't think you could fit like an objective within a wildwood. That would be crazy. But like, you could put them all around it and make it very difficult not to be within 3 inches of it. So it's interesting. I think it's kind of techie and fun, He's Mecrat says Durthu's upgraded to Girthu. I like that.
Girthu.
I like that almost as much as I like Chadakar instead of Radakar the Beast. I think we can kind of move on from there. Or do we want to talk about any of these other guys?
Yeah, the 2-inch coherency is pretty neat on the bugs.
Yep.
Nothing huge to bring up.
I do think that the Spite Revenants finally have a use. And that's just, you pick an infantry unit in combat to be the target. On a 3-up, the target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. I'm glad that they just finally have a use. Like, they were always just like the ugly stepchild kind of deal. So, yeah. And I mean ugly. Moving right along, Ironjawz. Where's the beef? It's not beef, it's pork. And it's coming for you.
So you might notice there's only 2 battle traits for Ironjawz.
Yeah, you're like,
Might be a new low.
Man, that's so bad. Or
Yeah.
is it? Or is it?
So like I guess the short of it is that Smashing and Bashing is gone.
Yeah.
Which it is sad. You know, a lot
It
of
is
Ironjawz
sad.
players really like that a lot. That was a very unique thing about them.
Yep.
However, Khorne players, I now present you the new Khorne.
The new Khorne, yeah.
Because Mighty Destroyers is
New and
functionally
improved.
the same. Well, it's very similar to how Murderlust currently works. Because
But free.
But free, exactly. You don't have to spend any magic blood points. You don't have to do anything. You just pick a friendly Ironjawz unit that was not set up this turn to be the target, so you can't teleport and do it anymore. That target can move up to 3 inches. It can move into combat. If it was in combat at the start of the move, it must end that move in combat still. So you can't move out of combat with it. However, you can Murderlust people and lock them up, essentially.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's good and it's better than the Murderlust that Khorne has. Yeah, Alex says, "R.I.P. my army identity. You are Khorne now." Yes. Exactly.
It's so much better here, though.
The reason is that, as I said before, the active player has to resolve all of their abilities, and then the inactive player does their abilities. So basically, you get to see what your opponent does for their entire hero phase, and then you can decide to just walk into combat with them if you want. And you can pull the exact same strategy if you're going turn 1. Auto run your dudes just outside of 3 inches or even 5.9 inches away or something like that.
Right.
And then you can just barely tag them in combat. And then they've got the Ironjawz MOAR, which is once per battle, your charge phase. You pick a friendly Ironjawz hero to be the target for the rest of the turn. The following effects apply to Ironjawz units while they're wholly within 18 inches of the target. Add 1 to charge rolls and add 1 to the attacks characteristics of those units' melee weapons. So it's much better than the wall they have now, where they just get +1 rend. This is very, very good.
Yeah, agreed. It's fun.
Very good.
Too.
Yep. So that might not sound like
Like, to be honest, when I
crazy.
first looked at it, I was like, oh man, this is short. Alex is going to be pissed. And then I read it, and I also thought about it. Like, I did notice the hero phase part of that. And, like, something we and everyone else likely has been saying since the beginning of time is out-of-phase movement is super good. So, yeah, anytime it says you get to move something not in the movement phase, yeah, you'll want to pay attention to that.
super good.
Yeah.
Super good. Yeah, most of the time an orc unit is only going to be moving like 4. Like if you're talking about a foot orc, like brutes or something like that. But you move them 3 inches in the hero phase. Now they have a movement characteristic of 7. If you want to do the auto run thing, all of a sudden they're zooming 13 inches towards your opponent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you want to move in their turn, 16 inches. You're basically getting like 16 inches of movement towards your opponent if you want. And as we'll see later, their war scrolls have been like jacked up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like they're no longer reliant on war chanters. And a lot of it has just gone to base 3-up saves. Like they are the
That's crazy.
Stormcast or like Slaves to Darkness of Destruction.
Yeah.
And they still hit just as hard. Like it's scary.
It's real scary.
So moving on, we've got the battle formation of Ironjawz Brawl, which is if you make an unmodified charge roll of 8+ for a friendly non-hero Ironjawz unit, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn.
My God.
Yeah.
That and you call a WA and you're just like, bye-bye. Like, holy crap.
+2 attacks is
Yeah.
yeesh. They've got a spell, Bash and Lads, casting value 6. Range of 12 inches, wholly within 12 inches. You can pick a unit, the Ironjawz unit, that is, their melee weapons have crit 2 hits for the rest of the turn. So you're just seeing like buff stacking on buff stacking on buff here. Like if they get an 8+ charge, they have Bash and Lads on them. Like, and this is an unlimited spell, by the way, so you can be spreading it out. So effectively, this is similar to what the War Chanter was doing previously.
Right.
where like, or I guguess no, that's not true because the War Chanter had to pick one unit previously.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still the same. Unlimited is per wizard, not
Yeah.
per power level. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Anyway,
but the
good.
nice thing is it can be any wizard, you know. So anyway, no, it's really
Keith
good.
says unmodified 8+. Not sure how often that'll trigger. I guarantee you, there's going to be something that adds 1 to the dice for charge rolls. There's got to be one thing.
But it says unmodified.
I know, but if you add 1 die, like add 1 die.
Oh, 1 die. Totally.
Or Kragnos.
Or just
you put Kragnos in your army.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'd recommend
all
that.
of a sudden, it's
Kragnos
like almost
still
guaranteed.
Fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You thought Alex would be standing there flexing like he's a tripod. The thing about Alex, though, is he's in this weird conundrum where he doesn't like to play armies that he perceives as good. You know, or generally speaking, are good. So he's in a conundrum. He might have to just break it because it's clearly his favorite faction or his favorite army. Gordrak, the Fist of Gork. He's coming a fistin'.
They've finally done it. They finally gave him a 3-up save.
They did.
My God. My God.
That was so crazy. What a wild ride. 20 wounds, 3-up save, as you said. 10-inch move. 8-inch range on 6 attacks for shooting. 2s and 3s. No rend, 1 damage. Shooting combat, companion. Smashing and cutting. 8 attacks. By the way, this is a lot of attacks. This is 16 total attacks, right? Anyway, 8 attacks, 3s, 2s, -1 rend unless they're a hero, and then it's 2 rend, 2 flat damage. Big Teeth's Fists and Tail, 8 attacks, 4s and 2s. 1 rend unless they're a monster, and then it's 2 rend. 3 flat damage. So that is... what is that, like 40 total damage that he can do?
16 plus 24, yep.
Oh, that's not including shooting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whew! Yeah, it's just smack a Gargant into the ground. Actually, you could. None of the anti-monster hero stuff. Yeah.
And his big thing, too, is that he gives everyone wholly within 18 +1 to hit after you declare your WA. Like,
right.
That's huge. Like,
yes, that's true. And then on top of that, too, it could be pointed out, and should be pointed out, that if you're attacking an enemy hero on a monster, he's just 2 flat rend. So, it's something. Anyway, monster grapple. Pick an enemy monster for his rampage. Roll a 3-up. Pick one of the target's weapons. You must pick a companion weapon if it has any. Have the attacks characteristic of that weapon rounding up for the rest of the turn. Like, what if it's just a monster with 1 attack profile? Like, they're out there, right? Like, what if its whole thing is its attack profile is like how many attacks it gets? Or even, it's actually even worse if it's not. Like, if they have like just 2 crazy good attacks, it goes down to 1 attack, and then they roll a 1 to hit. You're just like, oh man. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty spicy. Voice of Gork, as you said, until the start of your next turn, add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Ironjawz units while they're wholly within 18 inches. It's only if you have a wall going on, but that's still pretty incredible. And it's a huge bubble, and he's on a big 160 millimeter round pie plate, so pretty awesome. End of any turn, strength from victory effect. If any damage points were allocated to an enemy unit by this unit's combat attacks this turn, and an enemy unit was destroyed, give this unit a WA token to a maximum of 3. Until the end of the next turn, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's weapons for each WA token it has. So, let's see. So, like, if you kill... One second. So you could have up to 3, right? So then you could be rocking, 11 attacks each? Oh my god.
I don't know that it applies to the companion attacks.
Oh, maybe
but
not. Oh, maybe
but
not.
definitely Smash and Cannon is going to be on 11 attacks.
Oh, right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then with the whole like 8+ charge, WA, 13 attacks potentially.
Wow.
Spoilers, there's ways to give +1 damage to.
Right.
So, yeah.
Holy moly.
He hits hard. That's the big thing.
He slaps, and he's a great model, so hooray.
Yep.
Hopefully he's suitably priced.
Then we got War Chanters, which are... They've got their 6 wounds on a 4-up to control.
They're a priest.
Yeah, they're a priest.
No.
They're 6 attacks, 4s, 3s, no rend D3 damage. Like, if it spikes, it could hurt. And then you've got your Rhythm of Destruction, which is if enemy models are slain, you basically just get D3 vegetable points, so that it makes his casting easier, or his chanting, sorry.
Right.
It's a priest 1. But the most important thing is that we now see the War Beat, Kill a Beat, below here, which is like an actual prayer. It's not just an ability on the Warscroll, which is a chanting value of 4. And then you can pick a friendly visible Ironjawz unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target, and then make a chanting roll of D6. And if it goes off, you add 1 to the damage characteristic of that target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. If it was an 8+ instead of a 4, you can pick up to 2 instead of 1. So let's go back up to Gordrak's Warscroll here for a second.
And he does not have a ward, by the way, Keith. He asked in the chat.
No, yeah, he doesn't have a ward. So that's the one thing about Ironjawz is that almost none of them have wards. Yeah. So that's going to be one weakness they have for sure. But yeah, you have Gordrak all of a sudden getting up to like maybe 13 attacks.
Right.
3s, 2s, or 2s and 2s if you're calling a WA.
Yeah.
Rend 2 against heroes, and then damage 3.
Oh no, it'd be 2s and 3s because he's hitting on 4s with the BB boy.
What?
I think you said 2s and 2s across.
2s and 2s for the Smash and Cunning. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying for his whole profile. Got it. No. I'm sorry.
So basically, it makes it so that he's going to be clearing like 60 damage essentially, maybe 70. I can't even. Yeah, it depends on like how many buffs he has, but he is going to like erase something's ancestry. Like,
yeah, he's potentially like wiping out like 2 giants, 2 mega gargants. Oh my god!
I would say the rend, like obviously, it's not that they're like getting up to rend 3 or anything like that, and why should they? Frankly, rend 1 against most things is still like manageable. Like, let's say you're going into Stormcast and they're all
it's a lot better now.
Yeah. All of a sudden, like, this crazy volume of attacks is good, but it's not gonna just like completely pick something up off the table if it has any sort of like respectable save. Like kind of like that, where it's not just like I'm rend 8 and I have a million attacks, damage 4 flat. Have fun. So that's kind of interesting.
I like that, and also it should be pointed out too that like there's less access to what do you call it? Save stacking now. Way less access.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's not gonna be able to find a tower.
Yeah.
He just has all-out defense, basically. Yeah, as far as we know.
As far as we know, yeah, for sure. Right on. By the way, does the War Chantas thing apply to the mount as well? Or sorry, not the War Chant. Or yeah, sorry, the I meant the Kill-a-Beat.
The prayer? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does because I'm pretty sure the wording on the companions thing is that it can't be the benefit of changing the attack's characteristic or the attack sequence. However, damage is not part of the attack sequence. That's damage allocation, right?
Right.
So I don't think, and you're not changing a roll, you're not changing the sequence, you're changing a characteristic.
Yeah.
So I think it would apply, which means they're flat 4 damage instead of 3 and 8 attacks. So
my god,
pretty good.
20 health, like he says. No word. Fair enough. Yeah. One would hope. Brutes.
We're not
3.
done.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. Sorry. There's the brutes. If you'll notice, have gone to a 3-up save now instead of a 4-up. So they're even tougher than they were.
Yep. And they should be. They've got a lot of armor on. You know.
I like the new identity. I think.
Me too.
They're just super tough. They are slow, but they're super tough.
True.
And so they're coming in a unit of 5 still.
Or are they?
Champion-
Like, there is the 3-inch move in the hero phase.
Yeah,
So 7-inch move is
7
faster than average, you know?
that's true. But it's one of them that can do
That's
that.
true. That's true. Yep.
Then you have 1 and 5 can have a Gore Choppa instead of brute weapons, which is basically same profile except it's Ren 2 and 3 damage instead, or 4 damage if you get the prayer off. And then the champion can't replace the weapon, so it's just going to be 4 attacks on the regular brute weapons profile. They've got anti-infantry +1 Ren, which is excellent.
Right.
They're 4s and 3s, Ren 1, 2 damage normally. And then they've got a passive called Umesen, which is the enemy models with a health characteristic of 1 or 2 cannot contest objectives while they're in combat with this unit. So it's kind of similar to what they have now. Now, the important thing is that a unit like this can effectively make use of power through if they're going into like other infantry units. And if you recall, power through is a command that you can use at the end of the turn, where you basically deal D3 mortal wounds to something for a CP, and then you can move your move characteristic somewhere else.
Right.
So if you really wanted to,
and you can't end in combat.
you can end in combat.
Or you can?
Yeah.
With power through? Okay.
You can't put new things in combat with power through.
Okay.
Is the big thing.
I
But
see.
the thing is that you could charge something, pile in to kind of wrap around,
Yeah.
like smack it, and then power through a little bit out of combat, basically,
Right.
to the next thing,
Yeah.
and then mighty destroyers into something in their turn, which is
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's
So-
really good.
So that's why this is going to be so potent, I think, is that you're going to have, and it's not even necessarily brutes that are going to make the most use of that because it's only move characteristic 4, but like Magrantas that we've just seen here,
right.
movement 10, or like the smaller pigs as well, like they're going to be doing that all the time, I think, where it's just
Yeah.
like, cool, I hit your front line, I killed your screen, and now I'm going to just run over here just outside of like the rest of your army and then step into combat with you. Have fun securing battle tactics, have fun doing whatever it is that you wanted to do. Now you have to fight these pigs.
Now you have to get out of combat to do anything that unless your plan was for the brutes to come and fight you. You know, I hope you're playing that kind of 4D chess because that's so true.
And I think Alex did the calculations where if brutes are like fully buffed up with like a WA +1 to hit, the damage, that sort of stuff, like they can pretty reliably drop a Gargant. Which is
Really?
pretty scary.
That's
Yeah.
reliably.
Well, because they have 4 attacks each, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Wait,
you mean
they would be 4 on the wall, sorry.
on the wall? Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
let's say it's an unmodified 8-inch charge. It's 5 attacks each.
Right. Oh, geez. Yeah.
At 2 damage each. So that's already, what is that, 5 times? There's 4 of them with the normal weapons, plus
Yeah.
the champion. So that's 21 attacks on that characteristic, on that profile.
Yeah.
They've got +1 to hit if Gordrak is around. So it's on 3s and 3s. Rend 1, 3 damage. With the prayer.
Jeez.
So it's getting pretty easy, right? Like 21 attacks at damage 3, and then the Gore Choppa on top of that. Yeah.
Wow.
I could see that at the very least crippling a Gargant.
Yeah, I would think it would at least cripple a Gargant. I agree. Ooh.
Yep. And then we do have the Magrunta with Hack and Crew. Do you mind reading this one? Sorry, my voice is kind of
No, not at all. So 10-inch move, 12 attacks, 3 up save, 5 control. And then now I think you get both the Choppas and the kill Choppas, right? There's no selection. Okay. I'm not as familiar with this Warscroll.
Yep, all of these. Yep.
Okay, so you have 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. Also another 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage. Then you've got the Magrunta's Tusks, 5 attacks, 4s and 2s, 2 rend, 2 damage, companion. Then the Hooves, or Trotters as they're calling them here, 4 attacks, 5s and 2s, which is a weird choice to me, but whatever. Rend, nothing, and D3 damage, companion. And now they finally kind of fixed their momentum. Each time this unit uses a charge ability, it gains 1 momentum point. Each time it uses a run ability, it gains 2 momentum points. It can have a maximum of 3 momentum points at once. Add the number of momentum points that this unit has to the damage characteristic of the Maw-Grunta's tusks, which are pretty much the best one anyway. So it could be up to 5 damage, right? I think so. And then at the end of the battle round, by the way, subtract 1 from its momentum points to a minimum of 0. And it could be, it could be charging in other people's turns, by the way, so you can be coming back even in other people's turns. There's a ghost zooming around in your background. Carve a path is once per turn, army, your movement phase. If this unit is in combat, it can move a distance up to its move characteristic. So it can move out of combat, right? It can pass through models and combat ranges, of course, because otherwise it would the whole ability falls apart. But it cannot end in combat. Then pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across during that move to be the target. Roll a d3, and then on a 2-up, which is a 3, on a d6. Inflict amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll, so 2 or 3 mortal wounds, mortal damage, excuse me. Then this unit gains 2 momentum points. So it's like most of the time it's rocking 3 momentum, right? Unless it's mostly. Oh no, I mean, unless it has run and charge, then I guess it could only be rocking 1. But yeah, I'm guessing there's probably going to be a way of running and charging as well. But yeah, I don't know. Like, so I think the Ironjawz one is probably the coolest. Now I am a bit of a Timmy. People might know that. But like, man, this really speaks to me. Like the Timmy and me, and even the Johnny and me are both just like, ooh, this is pretty spicy. I like this a lot. Yeah, I'm wishing I kept that Ironjawz army and didn't sell it. But in my defense, like none of the stuff was out. This is like very start of the pandemic. Yeah, actually, this is the day before lockdown. I bought a start collecting Ironjawz. So,
like, I can't wait to play this with my friends.
Yeah. Actually, no, I didn't know that. Like, I knew that it was coming. We didn't have official word. And it was the last thing I went out and like bought in a store for a while after that. And I got it at, I got it in a mall because no one else had it. So, yeah. But I mean, like that one had the old Ard boys, and that was the one thing in the army I really didn't like. Like, I'm not a fan of those models. And if you are, I'm not, like, it's whatever, right? Everyone has their own aesthetic that they like and dislike. But I like the brutes, so I bought a start collecting, and I bought a pack of brutes. And I had this idea for these like Ironjawz, like who live in like frozen wastelands. And like I won't say the full thing because I still might do it at some point. But then I saw that Steve Herner, I think his name is. He's like a really famous TO from the States. Really, really good hobbyist. He did like this thing called the Ironjawz of the North. And I was like, oh, that's kind of my idea. So, and he did it probably better than I was going to anyway. So anyway, but like, man, this army looks like so much fun. I'm very jealous of anyone who owns Ironjawz. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, Justin, I totally agree. The new Ard Boys models are chef's freaking kiss. Like chef's French kiss, French tickler, whatever. I don't know. Good stuff. Approved. But to be fair too, like, a lot of like Rob stuff is coming out lately. And we're moving into the era of Rob. Like the 4th edition it's my edition. I claim it. Like it's mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I
I'm
argue
like
with that?
I'm like that guy Steven in Braveheart or whatever. He's like, your island. And he's like, yeah, Ireland. It's mine. 4th edition. It's mine. Yep. I claim it in the name of the Great Horned Rat. What more do you want from me?
I mean, I don't think anyone can argue with you on that.
I don't think they can.
He called dibs.
I call dibs. Yeah.
Dibs is law.
Dibs is law. We're not animals. You have to respect the law of dibs. Yeah, and brutes. Yeah, the stonks are way up, and they're cool models too. Oh man. Yeah. I don't know.
It's got to stop. Rob's getting all hot and bothered. He's going to buy another army.
I'm not going to buy another army. I'm not going to buy another army. It is the era of the Rob, and Squeakers here is with me, and we're ready. We've got our warp stone. You know, we've got some like warp stone that we can just kind of, you know, suck on like a lozenge. We've got other stuff that we've ground up so we can mainline it in between games. It's here. Yeah.
It's going to be good.
It's going to
be real
be
good.
It's going to be great. So, yeah.
Yep. So what's next on the docket?
Well, we don't have anything official.
Yeah, I guess we could just kind of have an open discussion about the
I think that's best.
core
Yeah.
rules, that sort of stuff.
I don't have
some
anything that I
thoughts.
can show.
Yeah.
Maybe
Could
I'll.
a Skaventide box or something,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, did I close that? What an idiot.
I'm not sure. I have some thoughts.
Okay.
There's a lot of new stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's very similar, and I think that it's honestly
Right.
going to be harder for players that have like become fluent in third edition to go to fourth than it is for a new player to learn the rules of fourth, because there's going to
Really?
be some stuff that's just like a
Oh.
little different
A little different? I
Um,
can see that.
that you're going to assume is the same. It's not quite. And I think there's kind of like, I want to say two big things that are going to trip people up the most. The third thing, there's technically three. The third thing is going to, what's up? What are you pointing
Oh,
at?
I'm sorry. I kept meaning to say it, this whole freaking thing, and then something keeps popping up. Like Keith reminded everyone in the chat. I really appreciate you, Keith. I love it when people bring this up. It gives me a chance to say, you know, subscribe for the YouTube gods, comment for the algorithm throne, and hit the screaming bell to always receive notifications. I really appreciate it. The channel has been, you know, it right now is the toughest time for any Age of Sigmar or any wargaming YouTube channel, because we're in between the editions, so people are, you know, like they're kind of floating away, and then they're about to come back, but you know, things have really slowed down for the channel. So if you like what we do at all, we really appreciate it. Subscribe for the rants. How about that? And if the rant's directed at you, ignore that. It's not really directed at you. It's never directed at you. I'm talking to you. Moving right along. Sorry to interrupt. I do appreciate you mentioning that, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, much appreciated. It helps us out a lot. And we will have plenty of 4th edition content to come.
Yep.
But 3rd edition content is super not evergreen, whatever the opposite of evergreen is. So we're kind of straying
perennial?
away from that. Huh? Perennial?
Perennial?
Yeah.
Is that
Or
right?
just dead. How about that? Just dead.
And not
Anyways.
cool vampire undead. It's just dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see Mechrat in the chat saying that they've played a bunch of scuffed 4th edition games using the faction focus models. The biggest pain has been coherency. That was one of the things I was going to bring up. So basically, what I was going to say is there's two big things that I think are going to trip people up. Number one is coherency. And it's not just that coherency is like half-inch anymore. It's not that it has become half-inch from 1-inch, which is a change that's going to like mess things up quite a bit. It's that coherency has like a couple other small things that have been added onto it that make it absolutely brutal. And I was playing a game with Matthias. He was using Tom Maudsley's like the masterclass list, and I was just using some of the faction focus ogres. And he ended up bow tying like a big unit of clan rats because he's like, okay, you can't shoot them, so it's not a big deal. I was like, all right, my battle tactic is to kill those guys. And then how it ended up being was I only actually had to do 7 damage in order to wipe the entire unit. That's how brutal it was, because the way that coherency works now when allocating damage is you allocate damage one at a time and you remove models one at a time. But if as soon as you remove a model, the unit goes out of coherency, you remove models until you're back in coherency, and then you resume applying damage. Your damage doesn't apply to the models out of coherency anymore. So if you have a big bow tie, and let's say I do 3 damage, you pick up one end of the bow tie, and that's 1 damage dealt. and then you go all the way until you have 6 models left, because that's where coherency is okay again.
Yeah.
And then you go boop, boop, and you kill 2 more. So instead of me just killing like 3 units off the end of your unit, I've killed all the way down to you having 4 models left. And that's why it's brutal.
Wait, with the bow tie, you kill 1 model.
Yeah, and then
it goes all the way up to 6.
And then you kill 2 more models after that.
Oh my god!
It is.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And
you could have done that with like 1 ogre. You probably did do it with 1 ogre.
Yeah, I did. And it's pretty brutal, and it's going to catch a lot of people off guard. And it's not even necessarily about like bow tying. It's going to be a lot of the time when someone charges in with a unit, they kind of like lazily do it and then just kind of space them out. However, this game kind of wants you to be rank and file now.
Yeah.
Like you have to be honeycomb pattern all over the place. Otherwise, as soon as you start removing models, that guy's out of coherency and you lose a model. And even if it's only like 1 or 2 models here and there, chances are in like a big hammer unit, it's going to be like a really important amount of models that die if you're losing like 10% more than you normally would be just because of coherency. Well, and I think at the beginning of the edition, a lot of people are going to be nice about it.
Yeah.
But I think as time goes on, and especially as we see going into like Atlanta World Championships, people aren't going to be nice about it. People are going to be, and like if you have, let's say you have a unit of 10 Chaos Knights, 5x5, and they're stacked directly on top of each other, exactly ½ inch apart. Yeah. Technically, diagonally, the distance is going to be more than ½ inch. So you remove 1 Chaos Knight, and then 1 Chaos Knight will be out of coherency, so you have to remove him. So you're getting a 2 for 1, basically. But so you have to honeycomb things, essentially, is what I'm saying.
So like the circle would go like boop, boop, and then 1 in the middle, and then 1 down, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You could still do a line, but they have to be kind of like up and down, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Honeycomb basically means like alternating, like if you, let's say my fingers represent each model like this, instead of going like this and lining them up perfectly, you have to go like this.
Right.
And then I'm making gang signs at the camera now, but you know,
yo.
Yeah, coherency gang. That's gonna catch people a lot. And I'm not even done with coherency yet. Yeah. The next thing about coherency is that you cannot bring models back out of coherency. Right? So let's say you use rally on a unit of clan rats. You have, let's say I killed you out of coherency last time, so that you got killed all the way down to 6 rats. And you're like, ouch, that hurt. I'm going to rally them up so I can get more models back. Let's say you killed them all the way down into a straight line of 6 rats.
Yep.
You cannot put models back out of coherency. And what that means is as soon as you add that 7th rat model, there's nowhere you can place it where the unit is coherency with 7. Even if you rolled like 4 4-ups in your rally and you're supposed to bring back 4 models, when you're resolving bringing models back, you have to do it one at a time in coherency. So if you have a straight line, you can't make a bow tie effectively anymore. So it's just impossible to bring models back to your unit.
Wait, why couldn't you on the end? If you make if you put 1 in between 2.
I'm gonna bring up MS Paint. How about that? And I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay. I will try and make that work in Streamlabs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it'll just be showing in this window, but
okay.
See if I can present a window, paint.
I just noticed it kind of chopped us off. Oh, okay. It's going to the side. Yep.
Okay, cool. Perfect. This is like pretty visible. It looks okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a unit of 6 clan rats. I'm just going to duplicate this a bunch. Never mind, I can't. 6 clan rats. MS Paint is terrible. Pretend these are...
Yeah. They don't have to be exact.
Yeah. So you've killed your unit down to this. You have 1.
Oh, 2, I see 4, what you're saying 5, now. 6. Yeah.
You roll a rally, and you get like 4 guys back.
Yeah.
And then what
And
happens?
it's one at a time,
is
and so you
yeah,
can't
you have
put
to
them.
resolve
Yeah,
coherency one at a time. If I put my
That's-
rat here,
right.
the unit's no longer in coherency, so he goes away, and I can't put him in the unit.
So you can never
If I
leave
try to
them
put 'em here-
in a line of 6, rather. Yeah.
You have to kill your units in preparation of bringing stuff back.
Right.
So you can no longer, you can't just go like this.
Yeah.
You have to basically, like, if you have 6 units left, don't kill them in a straight line. You have to kill them like this, basically. And that way, when you bring your model back, it has to come back here. And then you can
Right.
continue coming back in coherency.
Right.
That's going to be something that trips people up a lot, too. Coherency is brutal. Like, it is,
Yeah.
it's way worse than it was.
It's kind of obnoxious, to be honest. Like, I think this is the one thing that, like, man, this is going to take, like, I remember explaining in every freaking battle report we ever did at the start, whenever we used 25mm models, like, why things were in coherency. It's going to be the opposite now, where we have to explain why things aren't in coherency, or why we can't do certain things if we make certain choices or whatever. Well, yeah, but I guess whatever. I mean, the funny thing is like, if you look at the side of the screen here, like with the front box, none of those models are in coherency almost, right? Like none of the clan rats are in coherency.
Yeah.
But like, so I don't know. I like that they want things to feel like a unit, you know? I like that. But having to honeycomb units that are spread out into like a thin line, like you do in like Total War or whatever, I'm not a huge fan of that, you know? But whatever. I guess it's achieving a certain look. Are you? Huh. I don't like, yeah, and I agree with that. I don't really like stringing things out, but I also don't like having to like honeycomb units into this weird formation. It just doesn't look cool to me, you know? To like, if we have like 2 unit, like if you have a unit that's got like 2 ranks essentially, to have to like honeycomb them, I just think it looks goofy. But
and to visualize what I'm talking about, with like let's say you've got 10 Chaos Knights,
yeah,
you put them up like
Right.
this,
yeah,
they're ½ inch apart.
yeah,
Like if this distance here is ½ inch, this distance here is not going to be ½ inch. And all of a sudden you remove this guy, and then this one is out of coherency. So you have to remove him too. Which basically means your opponent is getting a 2-for-1 deal on every single knight that they kill.
You can do this. You can do this for. Oh no, you can't quite. Never mind.
You do it all the way down. So basically, the next knight they would kill is this one, and then you have to remove this guy, and now you're down to 6, and you're okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Then it becomes okay again.
That's kind of awful. But like, so I guess the solution for them is you just put them in between.
What you have to do is you have to, instead of going like this, you have to. I'm gonna use my awesome MS Paint skills here. Yeah,
Yeah.
that.
And that looks goofy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah.
I mean, you could also
Or-
bring. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex is saying in the chat, stagger the line so it nestles. Exactly. That's what you're supposed to be doing now, essentially. Or if you have them like truly butted up against each other,
Yeah.
like base to base like that, it will be fine. But they have to be like super, super close to each other.
Right.
Or for this distance here to be like truly a ½ an inch. So
Right.
you just to be safe, you pretty much have to be honeycombing everything. Justin Sloan says, couldn't you remove the center guy? You could. You could remove this guy. This is the first knight that you killed. And then you're okay for now.
Yeah.
And then the next knight that you kill would be this one.
Actually,
Or any of the other ones, essentially. And then all of a sudden you're out of coherency again. And not only do you have to kill that one, you have to kill... So let's say you do kill the center guy.
Mhm.
And the next one you have to kill is this one, right? You're down to 8. These 2 are out of coherency.
so
One of them is. So then you
you
have to
could
kill both of
also
them. The net
you could
result
also
is the
put
same.
you could also take 2 of them and put them on the sides. I mean, again, it gets kind of goofy, but if you put them on the sides, Like if you put two that are so they're on the like in the middle. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I understand.
Let's see. So okay, so you've got 4 up top, 4 down below, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And now you take 1, and yeah, exactly. You put it there, and then you put the other one there. And then if you kill the ones on the right and left, you're still in coherency, even one at a time.
Yeah. So you kill. Oops.
You kill that one.
Kill this one. You're good.
This gets
Kill this
goofy,
one,
right?
You're good.
You get that one, you're good.
And then you kill
and
this
then you
one,
kill.
and then you have to lose 1 out of coherency. So you're losing one guy max.
What if you kill a middle guy?
There is no middle when there's 4.
Right.
Because you go like this, and then this one's out of coherency.
Yeah. So I think the answer then is still to honeycomb, and then you can put them on the sides to make things slightly easier. It still looks goofy, and that's kind of my problem. Like, if people remember the early coherency rules for like direwolves in AOS 3, and they had a 1-inch attack, and you were forced to kind of like line them up in rows of 2 because of coherency, and so you had 2 choices. Either they didn't, like half the unit didn't get to attack, or like a little bit less than half the unit. Or you did these goofy clamshell formations that ran up the battlefield, and it was stupid and annoying, and it looked dumb, and that's what I don't like. And the irony here is they're not actually worried about rules, by the way. They're trying to make the game look a certain way. They don't like the conga lines, not for rules purposes. It's actually because of because they don't like things to like look a certain way. So they're trying to fix that, but I think they're creating other problems, to be honest.
Yeah. You can actually use this to your advantage though, as well. So let's say
you mean when you call out your friends and rules lawyer people?
Yeah, exactly. You can gotcha people. I don't know if you know this, but you can gotcha people. That's great. No, what I was going to say was, so it kind of came up in a game with Matthias and I, where he had a unit of clan rats in his general's regiment. And one of the new battle tactics that was previewed is slay a unit in your enemy's general regiment.
Right.
And what he did is he had clan rats that were bow tied all the way like this. And I'm just going to copy paste these. Just bow tied all the way out. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to stop.
Oh, interesting.
And then what happened was, so he went like this, and he had his bow tie.
Yeah.
And the tricky thing was, I charged in with a unit of like Gorders, and if they were going to come here, then he would basically just kill this clan rat, and then zoop all the way over to here outside of pile-in range of my unit.
Right.
With my impact hits, which just meant that I could no longer actually like pile in and smack his units. So he was like killing his dudes out of coherency from the impact hits away from me so that I couldn't secure my battle tactic. Wow. And then the same thing if I like leaned to one side. If I went over here, he killed it this way. If I went over here, he killed it the other way. So you can kind of do that sort of stuff if your opponent has like impact hits, if they have shooting, anything like that. You can kind of use it to your advantage. Right. And yeah, there's a lot of weird, tricky stuff here.
But the other thing about that though is if you like, what if like you could make that formation, and then what if they don't fall into your trap? Like they're not going to kill that unit. They just take a pox shot at your unit from super far away, and then they kill like the whole unit almost with just like a couple bullets.
So just to address a question in the chat, Relish asks, do we not get a free pile-in if you charge this edition? You do get a free pile-in, but I'm saying that this is not indicative of the whole situation. Realistically, like
he had
the
like
end
20.
Of the bow tie was the end of the bow tie was all the way like over here, essentially.
Right.
So it's like no matter where I charged, he was able to bring the unit like all the way to one side or the other. And it was way more than 3 or 6 inches away from me to be able to actually slap it properly. But so to your point though, You're saying that your opponent could just shoot one thing off.
Oh, but this was a big
That's the thing.
screen.
This is a big
too.
screen, but also
Yeah.
like this is not something that you would or probably should do against like Daughters of Cain that has a lot of access to like random shooting in addition to their melee. You would do this against an army like Ossiarch Bone Reapers, where you know that they have no ranged output that can possibly hurt you.
Hey, there's catapults.
That's true, but again, you can see your opponent's army.
Yeah,
You can see everything that
that's
they
fair.
have, and you're like, I'm okay with you losing this screen to
Right.
whatever you're going to do, because that's kind of the job of a screen anyway. It's like a one-time use. I'm okay with like taking up the space with the screen, so you can still bow tie if you want to. It's just admitting to your opponent essentially this is a one-time use.
Right.
Whereas now you can kind of like bow tie a little bit better, so that even if you do get shot, you can remove some, and it's not a big deal. So
Fair. I mean, that's a very interesting, and you do bring up a really cool tactic. You know, that I hadn't thought about sacrificing, you know, using, like, I didn't think about it like that. So, like, you know, spoiling someone's battle tactic essentially. But yeah, no, that's interesting for sure.
So yeah, that whole concept of coherency is like one of the biggest things that I think is going to trip people up in this edition. The second concept is endless spells. And for endless spells, you kind of have like two main. I'm just staying in MS Paint at this point. You have two main ones. You have static,
Yeah, it's washing my face out very nicely. So I appreciate that.
and you have predatory. And for the purposes of static, I'm also just going to loop in faction terrain here.
Okay.
Because functionally they're very similar. And the big thing is that I'm just going to move this over here.
By the way, someone
predatory.
mentioned earlier about, like, you know, like cavalry that comes in threes, or, you know, Croxagors, Agrodons, like Nick was saying, and a few other people were talking about. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Much better.
What about it? Sorry.
Well, like if you're a unit of 3, your coherency, even if you double up on them and they become 6, you never have to worry about that. Whereas it's really
Exactly.
like the cavalry issue is really only if you come in 5s, like Blood Knights or Chaos Knights or whatever. So
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because you can't triple reinforce anymore. It's going to be a big thing.
yeah.
But anyway,
And without Battle Shock too, it becomes very interesting. Like, the main downside to reinforcing my clan rats, which I basically never did in all of 3rd edition, but always did in 2nd edition, was Battle Shock. So yeah, I'm really
yeah, there's not a lot that can like actually do 40 damage. Like sync
No.
40 damage.
yeah.
So it's like they are going to survive. Also, sorry about the barking in the background.
We know and love your dog, your goblet dog.
He screams because people exist outside. But anyway,
By the way, one second. Wait.
Okay.
Pat, I absolutely sacrifice my clan rats in every single game that I have ever played of AOS 1, 2, and 3. I just meant not in that tricky way of spoiling this particular battle tactic. I always sacrifice clan rats. They're the first thing to go because I no longer have Skaven slaves. Okay? Sorry. I just don't want my reputation to go away on me. I absolutely betray my own, would eat my own rats. Anyway, sorry. I've derailed it long enough. Please continue.
yeah. Anyway, predatory endless spells, for all intents and purposes, in this edition, are units. They are
Right.
enemy units.
Mhm.
So they are. I'm going to spell this out in my amazing handwriting here. Units.
Beautiful.
Exclamation mark. It looks
Are
great.
you a calligrapher?
I am.
Oh, I can
if
tell.
that means bad at writing.
Usually.
So predatory on the spells, and the reason why this matters is that predatory on the spells no longer move in the hero phase. They no longer like what's it called? They don't act like endless spells do right now. They're treated as if they're a unit because like when they get summoned, they can't move in your hero phase or movement phase following. They just move in your movement phase. They can't receive like abilities or anything like that.
Right.
The big thing is that when you have a predatory endless spell, and let's say it's set up here, and maybe you've got like a couple units here that you want to be protecting. If your opponent wants to be like deep striking in the current edition, they only have to stay outside of 9 inches of your units.
Right. Absolutely.
But in Age of Sigmar 4, that's no longer the case. Now, you can effectively use these endless spells as screening units. Not even just for deep strike, but for the purposes of deep strike, you do have to be outside of 9 of them when you set up for predatory endless spells. And that's really nice because there's a lot of armies that are getting access to deep strike, right? You've got IDK that's just got it now. Stormcast has it. There's some teleport spells around there. We saw Cruel Boys has their like setting up outside of 9 wholly within 3 of a terrain feature. Like you can really shut some stuff down there. It's really nice. And then the other nice thing is that you can use this endless spell as a regular screen too. So let's say it's got like a pretty big base size. Maybe it's like a Gravetide, and it's like that. Because it's effectively a unit, your opponent in the movement phase still has to stay outside of 3 inches of it when they're moving around. And while they can charge over it, that's just like way more distance than they have to cover than if it were, what's it called? Like if they were just like running into your screen or something like that. Yeah. So it's pretty nice in that regard. And then the static endless spells don't adhere to that stuff. The difference between static and predatory, static is still treated as a unit, but it's only treated as a unit for the purposes of the movement phase and the charge phase. Or sorry, not the movement phase, the charge phase and the combat phase. And what that means is, let's say you've plopped a big static endless spell right here. Your opponent is, I'm going to mark this in green because it's yours. That's your endless spell. Your opponent has moved some units. They can move with units within 3 of it if they want to. They can put like a big unit right here. Totally fine in the movement phase if they want to do that. However, in the charge phase, your endless spell now counts as a unit. So these, for the charge phase, are counted as being in combat.
In combat.
So that means if they walk into range, they can't charge anymore. They're locked in combat. And the same thing goes for your faction terrain. You can't walk within 3 of it. Otherwise, in the charge phase, you're basically locked there. Now, that being said, in the combat phase, it's the same thing. So you could pile in and you could smack them. So if the only thing that you're trying to do is just like sprint up towards this piece of terrain and like smack it, basically, you can do that if you want to have to charge. That's totally fine. But it's something that you got to keep in mind if there's something else that you're really wanting to get to. Like if you set up some units like here, and your opponent's like, yeah, I'm going to come closer because I want to come charge you, and they end within 3 of this, then all of a sudden they can't, right? That's going to be a really, really big deal.
Unless they're Night Haunt.
Now, yes. Yeah, that's true. Then they can just be bouncing around and doing whatever they want. Just reading up on the chat here. And the spell move blocking, hell yeah. Yeah, exactly. Lots of move blocking. But the big thing that I wanted to point out too is that your static manifestations and faction terrain can be used against you. Because similar to this scenario contrasting with this scenario where you have to set up outside of 9 inches. I don't even know if I'm drawing anymore. 9 inches. If you set up an endless spell, or let's say your faction terrain's like right here, and then you've got like a little goblin hero right here or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like something that you really don't want to be charged. And then your whole army is like kind of situated here, and this is like maybe the board edge. Your enemy can still set up outside of 3 so that they're not locked in combat.
Outside of 9 of the guy.
Outside of 9 of the guy.
But then just charge the terrain.
And charge the terrain, exactly. You can end within a half inch of the terrain because it's evaluated as a unit in the charge phase. And what that means is that you don't have to charge 9 inches anymore out of deep strike. So even if he redeploys away, you don't have to really worry about it as much. You can charge
as long as you can stay in combat with both the terrain piece and the unit that you want to get at. Because you can't move out of combat range of anything you started with in combat.
Yeah, so you could charge in 6 inches, which leaves you just outside of 3.
Pile in
be in
3.
combat phase with this, like you're good there, and then pile in 3, like you just said, and then hit what you actually want to hit.
Yeah, it's
so you can definitely have like static manifestations and faction terrain. Sorry, I just saw the because it's comment. Why does it have to be a goblin? Because the situation that I'm imagining is you have your loon shrine and then like a little madcap shaman, right? Because the madcap shaman is the classic thing.
I was thinking of
the loon shrine.
I was thinking of a squig boss, but yeah, that's true.
It's always like all the juicies are right there. It's always like Scrag Rot, a madcap shaman, like Gabapalooza, like all of those little casters like hanging around the loon shrine, the sneaky snufflers, that sort of stuff. All of a sudden you're charging the loon shrine itself and then just piling into them, which is really, really good. So that's super, super nice. A lot of people were saying that like stocks for deep striking units are down because with redeploy being at the end of the movement phase, if you see something drop down, you could just say like, okay, I'm just going to walk away from you. So that doesn't matter anymore. But using this, it's a little nicer, a little bit better, right?
Well, and like even if the unit isn't nearby, you can still just use the faction terrain to charge, move further up the board than you possibly could have, maybe kill the faction terrain as a bonus action to getting toward an objective or another goal, or like, you know, if you're going for the double, you might want to go for like a curse or something like, you know, or obviously curse might not exist, but like, you know, like if you were back in the day, you know, I pop in at the bottom of turn 1 with my Soul Scryer. He's 9 inches away. Curse is 9 inches, so I can't do it, but I could charge into the terrain piece, you know what I mean? And maybe set up some fun later on. It's just like, there's just so much more play now. I love that static faction terrain and endless spells can be charged. It adds like more depth to it. It's really cool.
Yeah. So I saw Pat say in the chat, that rhymed, I'm a potent, I didn't know it, that the only way static elements are an opponent's problem is if it's directly in between the enemy and the thing that wants to charge. That's true, but as we've seen, there's some tech pieces that can kind of like bypass that a little bit. I think it was the zombie dragon for Soulblight that we saw, which basically gets like they can move 2d6 after they charged, or there's like an unstoppable charge thing. So all of a sudden, let's say, yes, you have done it, where you have your faction terrain here, or like your manifestation or whatever it is, and the dude that's like way behind here, like plenty of space. All of a sudden, you can be like, okay, I'm going to charge over here, and this is where you land, and then I'm going to do my 2d6 thing, and I'm going to come all the way over here, and I'm going to come hit you. So they're using it as like a jumping platform to get to what they actually want to get to. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be unstoppable charge-esque like that. It could be Ironjawz, where it's like, I charge here, which is like 7 inches, and I end up here. And then I pile in 3 inches this way. And then because it's a manifestation or it's faction terrain or whatever, Ironjawz are absolutely going to just like murder whatever this is. And then all of a sudden, they just mighty destroyers into you again, right? Or maybe they don't murder it. Maybe they don't manage to kill it. They power through, and they just move towards you with their regular move characteristic, and then mighty destroyers towards you. So like, there's a lot of leverage that can happen.
My God.
Based on these faction terrain or static manifestations in faction terrain. Like it's pretty.
It's scary. Actually, this exactly reminds me of what Skinks used to do in 2nd edition with wary fighters, where they would charge in, and then when they activate to fight, they would just move out, and they could move so far, and they would just go on to objectives and different things. There's some fun tricks here for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And you might be thinking like, well, these are endless spells. Like most of the time when I go to a tournament, I'm not even really seeing them that much. Like most people don't have them in their list right now. In Age of Sigmar 4, everyone gets a whole spell lore for one.
Yep.
And a whole manifestation lore for free. Which means everyone is going to have some kind of manifestation in their list.
Right.
Period. If you have the models, they're going to be in your list.
What about Khorne? Or no, not Khorne. Or I guess Khorne uses their prayers.
Yeah, they have endless
They
invocations.
have endless prayers.
They've got the Wrath Axe. They've got the.
Is there anyone?
Sigil.
Or what about KO?
That's KO is one of the ones where it's kind of weird, where like maybe they won't have one.
Yeah.
Not sure about that.
Or maybe
kind of
they'll just
interesting.
have a thing where they can take it. Like you can pick one of the generic manifestation lores and you get something. Like you can.
Yeah,
get something.
exactly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I knew
Because
there
you have to have
was
the-
an army that I was. You know what I mean? But
KO is definitely a good example of that. But I mean, like, I can't think of another army that doesn't have good access to either priests or wizards.
well, like it even if they just have priests, but don't have their own endless spells, that would also f things up. But I can't think
That's
of
true.
anything like that other than KO. And they have had the access to other people's endless spells in the past, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Mecrat says KO takes spell in a bottle and summons Kronspine. Same with Gargants. Interesting. Is spell in a bottle confirmed to exist right now?
I don't think so.
But if something,
Remember
like you said, it could be something similar where they could just get to have one. And also,
Yeah.
Gargants do have King Broad. Like,
Oh yeah, that's true. But he doesn't have. He's a prayer. He's a priest, and he doesn't have.
correct.
Yeah, so that's another. That's one more army. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
But we'll
two
see.
that
We don't
can
know.
Think of out of 25, I think.
Out of 25, and
So, yeah.
maybe they get their own thing. You know, like maybe they
Yeah.
get when the army comes out proper, like with these current changes. It seems like a really good time. Like a lot of armies, like Daughters got endless prayers and spells when they got a release, but other ones didn't that you kind of expected, like Seraphon and Idnith and that kind of thing. So I could also see like this being the addition of everyone who doesn't have some kind of manifestation lore getting it as well, you know. But
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. We could see more faction terrain popping up. Like Slave's got one towards the end of the edition.
yeah, a really cool one. I'm
yeah.
glad you picked that up. Or won it.
The Feed Enjoyers. Well, I didn't win it. I bought it.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah.
you.
The Feed Enjoyers will summon a giant stinky foot. That is on brand.
Yeah. Wait, which one are
I
the
think they
feeder
picked
joyers? Is that?
Guardians. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was going to be because don't Ironjawz have the Foot of Gork spell?
True. Yeah, they do have that.
Boom.
I think he was talking about if you get the Sons of Behemoth dice, they're just like big footprints.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's true. Right. Yep. The follows of Tarantino. You know. I'm summoning a giant damn mushroom as my first one in fourth, no matter what.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will.
That-
So I will say, you probably want. I don't think there's a. So they gave us like examples of what all of the manifestation lores are.
Yeah.
Like Kronspines by itself. I know that there's like primal magic or primal energy or whatever it's called that has like Ravenax Gnashing Jaws, the Life Swarm, and the Burning Head.
Right.
You probably want to have, and this is very generally speaking because I truly haven't seen the War Scrolls. I don't know what rules that they have. You probably want to have a lore that has both predatory and static. What's it called? Endless spells.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big thing, especially if your faction doesn't have faction terrain. That's
Right.
probably going to be what you're
For like screening and different things.
Yeah, exactly, for screening. I mean, I guess it's just that the static ones tend to have a bigger footprint. But like,
Not always.
if you think of yeah,
Like-
that's true. But like one
the,
example, that
the
came to mind,
goblins,
like-
there's actually one where it's like a, I don't know, like a 50 millimeter base. I think the Mork's Mighty Mushroom.
right?
Although the spider one is a big fat one, like you said. That's true.
There is also the there's the Skaven one.
Yeah,
Where
we're
it's in a
blinking
big
vortex. I was
triangle.
just thinking of that. That's funny.
Where
Yeah,
the
it's
big
a triangle
is
of-
like,
And they're 40 millimeters each.
yeah, and it's 7 inches apart. We've seen that War Scroll.
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden you have this like massive area
Yeah.
of
No-go zone.
can't go here. You gotta Yeah, so that's like a huge screen that you have to.
And you don't really want to be near them either. Like, to be honest.
No, you don't. But the thing is, like, if you are within 3 inches, then, like I said, you can't charge, which is a pretty huge deal.
Well, and then on top of that, I think, don't they turn off run and retreats counts as a run now?
I think they subtract 2 from charges and runs now. That's
is that what it was?
They've shown us the Warscroll for it.
Right, I couldn't remember. I've been trying to pay attention to every faction focus, and it's not easy because I don't always care.
Mecrat says, I've played a few games with the Warp Lightning Vortex. It's really hard to use now. It's so easy to accidentally give opponents an easy charge. That's true. Yeah. If you have stuff over here or like here or something like that, and your opponents just stop, just outside of 3 like this, they might even just eat the -2 to charge however far they get this way, and then like do the whole pile and shenanigan thing that I talked about too. So it's always a give and a take. Like you might make use of this sort of thing, but if your opponent wants to just be getting closer and closer to you, or you don't have like a proper stopgap, then yeah, it's not great.
Well, and you don't have to summon it right next to you. Like, doesn't it set up at 13 inches or something? So, although I guess then if you're moving in your own turn, it was originally it was 26 inches.
It's definitely not that now.
No, I think it was 13 inches.
18 inches now.
18. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. So like you don't even necessarily have to summon it right next to you. You could say, like, if there's some terrain on the board, it's like, blocking off certain corridors like this.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you summon your Warp Lightning Vortex like right here.
Right.
And it's just like, congratulations, you just can't get through this point anymore without dealing with this and the spell. And yes, they can try and unbind it, but there's no more primal dice. It's a banishment value of 7+, so it's like realistically a 50-50 whether or not you can actually get rid of it. So it's not super great.
And doesn't that eat up, like, if you have one spell, doesn't that eat up your only spell?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard.
Unless there is places of power now where
that's true. Yep, that's a good point.
If you roll a 3 up,
but you don't necessarily get that either. Like, that's roll a dice on a 2-up. So
all of a sudden you're rolling a 2-up, and then you have to roll the 7-up to get that.
Yeah. And that's assuming it's a hero that doesn't have it. Otherwise, they get +1, right? So it has to be a hero that didn't already have a spell casting ability on it. So that's interesting. Also, there is, like, you can skitter leap over to something and still walk back through a gnaw hole. There's a few different plays available. Presumably. I guess we haven't... Did we? I don't think we saw skitter leap now that I think about it.
Skitter leap has been previewed in...
Right!
On other channels.
That's true. Right. So... yeah. There's always... I think there's lots of play out here. And it is early days, too, but yeah, there's pretty compelling stuff here.
Yeah. Ludovic has asked, can we heal faction terrain, or does the timing of when it counts as a unit not work? You can't use abilities on faction terrain, or command abilities on faction terrain. That's the big thing, so you couldn't rally it, for instance. But we have seen that, like, Sylvaneth, for instance, has methods of just, like, healing their trees as is, right? I think Tree Song does that. When there's already 3 trees set up, they can just heal the existing trees. So I think it would have to be like a very specific targeted form of healing it for that to be the case.
Nice. Raw Skaven can teleport as many models as they want through knot holes. As many models, yes. They've always been able to do that. But it has to be 1 unit. Raw Skaven? I don't know. I mean, there used to be... I think there was a spell back in the day called, like, Black Hunger. Or no, maybe that was a rule, but they would just go crazy and just eat everything around them. So you have like a crazy fast metabolism or something. And
Yeah.
so it depends on who you are. But yeah, the rules did kind of appear online. So yeah, like we're seeing a lot of kind of possibilities of stuff that, you know, yourself and like some of the stuff, like I haven't had a chance to have a scuff game yet, and I'm hoping to do one soon, but some things that popped up there I did notice, you know, but then other things that people are discovering all the time. This is so much fun. Like,
Yeah. And there's a decent chance that like there's a day one FAQ and everything that I just said is not true anymore.
That's true.
But
I mean, not everything.
I don't know. I think
Sure.
yeah, not everything, of course. But I'm just saying, like, some stuff might not be true anymore. Like, they might change some of the nuances around static and predatory on the spells and stuff like that. I don't think coherency is going to change.
Yeah,
that's pretty integral.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. And I think that Tacoma is going to be a shit show in a good way.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun, very chaotic, absolute Wild West. And I'm pretty sure, I don't think there's a lot of people that have seen actual rules for armies at this point. I know that there's rumors that there's like play testers and stuff out there, but they've done a really good job at locking everything down. Like, we would have had leaks come by now if like any, decent amount of content creators had them. So I think we're probably not really going to see anything until like next week, late next week at the latest, or earliest, sorry. So it's, who knows?
Alex did, yeah, totally. You do want to lose the roll off now. That's the weirdest
Yeah.
thing. You know what though?
Yeah,
I
true.
like it. I actually like that. Can I explain why? It does feel like a little bit of a weird situation, right? Well, and that's not always true. Assuming you're using the terrain, the layout, the GW layout, but a lot of places don't, like in 40K and whatnot. Like, they're not always known for the best layout, right? Putting all that aside, the reason that I kind of like it is because a lot of people feel like they're bad at rolling dice. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I don't know. It's like, okay, you lost, so now you get the better of the two choices. Instead of picking which side you go on, you know what I mean? You get to pick who puts down first. So,
Yeah. Which is kind of weird that you get to pick which side you go on, considering they've made...
No, but that's what I was
terrain
saying. Like, not everyone's going to use them, right?
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Like a lot of, like, in the 40K community, from what I understand, like, in 9th edition, I think a lot of people were using them, but in, like, 10th edition, they were like, they're bad. So no one's using them, kind of deal. So, and, like, the other thing, too, is I noticed that, like, the GW terrain maps, like, they often don't include, like, places of power and, like, some of the interesting bits and bobs as much. So, yeah. And there's a couple of other, like, there's a few, like, questions that I think, like, did you see the rules for being behind terrain? So, like,
In what context?
so, like, it says if you're behind terrain, if you can't draw a straight line from one model to another. It doesn't say from their base. So it's basically line of sight.
There's a couple contexts. There's a couple concepts. There's the concept of visibility, which, yes, it is true line of sight as we know it.
Yeah.
But there's some other rules, like determining how cover works. It is base to base, and you can't intersect terrain pieces. And then there's obscuring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, but to determine whether it's obscuring, they have to be behind the terrain or wholly on it, if it has the obscuring rule, right? So to determine whether or not they're behind it, it sounds to me like it's the same as line of sight.
No, obscuring is it's treated like the terrain that has obscuring is like a pillar in the sky that goes infinitely high. It has nothing to do with line of sight.
But it doesn't. It says if you can draw a straight line from any part
base to
of the
base.
model. It doesn't say to the base.
No. It's not. The
What?
For obscuring? Yeah, it's base to base. 100%.
No. Because obscuring is if they're behind the thing, and the part where it says whether you determine whether something's behind the terrain, it has to be
Obscuring doesn't say behind. It
No,
says
not
if you
obscuring.
can't-
I'm talking about whether obscuring. They're like anyway for like in terms of like determining whether something's behind it or not. That
Yeah.
says you can't be able to draw a straight line between any part of the model and the other one.
Behind is not a universal thing.
Well,
I know
it's a
for
part of the
obscuring
universal
specific-
rules.
For obscuring specifically, I know that it says specifically, like it lays out its own definition of behind in the obscuring rule, in the terrain rules.
Yes. Here, one second.
So then I would use.
I might have to pull it up. Do I have it? There we go. I don't remember what page it's on.
I'll
So
find
I
it.
can't
And
show
for those
this.
wondering, we're not looking at any. We're just looking at white images that we
Yeah.
enjoy very much, though. We're illuminating our faces and we're pondering our memories. We're not looking at anything.
Exactly. Is that part of terrain? I swear this is in a different order. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, wait. So, obscuring terrain. Oh, yeah, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I think it's under attacking, right? On these white images that are totally blank.
They were pondering.
That we're pondering our
Our own.
memories for.
Yeah.
Don't you just love looking for something live?
It's great. I know this is something that can be determined later.
Yeah, it's true.
Uh,
I mean, we
not a
don't
big
have
deal.
too much time left anyway, but and I say that and I'm still okay, I'll stop. But like there's definitely like putting like that one little thing aside, like there's definitely some questions that I've kind of come up with that I don't think are totally clear. And like when the rules for what do you call it? For 40K came out, like towering was like totally messed. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna put that away because I'm having trouble not looking for it. You're pondering where the best fruit is. I'm gonna say probably a tropical country, unless you really like berries. You know. A unit cannot be targeted by a shooting attack if it is behind or wholly on this terrain feature, unless it has the fly keyword. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. So then you got to determine whether it's behind it or not, and then behind it, it was like if you can draw a straight line. That's exactly what I was talking about, Necrat. I'm not really. What page was
the
that?
The keyword is that it says without that line passing across that terrain feature, not through. Does that make sense? So like you can't go over any part of the terrain.
But it doesn't say. But the line can go through the air.
Yes, but it says across. It doesn't say.
Yeah, but if it's sticking out over top, like if the model's tall.
Yeah, but let's say you have like a piece of terrain that something is peeking over, and you're like, I can see it above there. You draw that line. The line is still going across the terrain feature because it's still passing over top it.
Yeah, I guess so.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's a 3D world, though. It's not a 2D world, you know? So, like,
Yeah.
I think that could have been worded a lot better. I hope that's their intention, because otherwise it's like this rule is kind of useless, because
I just
it
remember
becomes-
reading something. So we're in a very disorganized state right now.
Yeah.
distinctly remember reading something.
And again,
just
we're
like-
going through our memory of
exactly, yes.
of
We're not.
something from the ether.
Yeah, it just came to us.
It came to us in a vision from the Great Horned Rat.
Yep. Anyway.
I definitely think that that's the intention.
Yeah.
The rules are often written in 2D. That's true. The rule is in 2D. You can't argue with that. But yeah. What? A toasty with egg, cheese, and ketchup. I don't know where in excuse me. In pondering my memory, in reading the images in my memory that were sent to me by the Great Horned Rat, I definitely lost track of the chat here. Oh, what to have for lunch?
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Wait, tuna and ketchup for lunch? What?
a toast. Wait, I saw quesadilla hamburger. That's a champion right there. Whoever says have a hamburger for breakfast is a champion.
A toasty with egg, cheese, and ketchup. Okay, sorry, I got it mixed up. And I was like, ketchup. What's wrong with you? God.
I've heard of worse, but I don't like to talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. Sigmar lied. The realms are flat, and there's ice walls at the edges of them.
That's true. That's true. You can't go beyond the edge of that map. That is the realm, and nothing else exists beyond it. That's kind of an interesting thing that, like, we have seen a couple of things that, like, went over. Like, actually, you and I were talking about this the other day. I was talking about how, like, when you rotate your model, you know, you're gonna, like, it's from any part of the base. So, like, if you have an oval-shaped model, you rotate it, and then you could, like, lose, you know, distance in your movement because you're rotating the model and whatnot. And you were talking about how, and I didn't remember this, apparently in 40K they have a rule where you can just rotate it however you want, completely freely, and you just spend like 2 inches of your move or whatever. That's like, there's a couple of things like that that I wish had come over.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. I just heard someone say that once, and I was like, that must be true.
Yeah,
Therefore,
I mean,
I shall tell it to everyone I know.
also, you know, you're a known liar, so no one believes
Yes.
Carson. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. But if it were true, I would love something like that in Sigmar, because it's just anything that's quality of life improvements and improvements to the speed of the game without losing vital aspects I really like, and I think that's one of them. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember someone like posting on, I think it was the Age of Sigmar subreddit, where they're like, you guys, I found out this crazy trick where if you start your oval base sideways and then you move its move characteristic and then rotate it, you basically gain 2 inches of movement. And then everyone in the comments is like, congratulations, you've discovered cheating. Like, well done.
Damn. That poor person who was just like reading probably a little too quick or whatever. You know what I mean? Just didn't quite read the whole thing. That's funny.
Yeah. Joker, you mentioned visibility. We want to be clear where obscuring and visibility are two entirely separate
They're different things, yeah.
Concepts. Like the purposes of being behind something and visibility, completely different. Like you can be visible to something, but obscured.
I was just saying that, like,
obscured.
The way I was reading it at the time, it sounds like visibility, and you already needed visibility in order to shoot something. So it seemed like, and I know that what they were intended, because it's already been in 40K for like 2 whole editions now, but in a different way, obviously. Like they've been doing it in different ways. But I know what they were intending with obscuring. Actually, it's been in there for 3 editions if you include the ITC rules in 8th edition 40K. But I was just reading it. I was like, it sounds like you said across, and yeah, I'm thinking in a 3D way, and I think that the rules writers are clearly thinking in a 2D way, but yeah, not well written, and I think it will need clarification. But
yeah, it
it's
definitely remains to be seen.
Yeah,
for sure. And the Mecrat says, speaking of quality of life and speed, I've seen a lot of haters of the roll of D3 and on a 2-up deal damage. It's technically twice as fast. technically it's twice as fast. But I would say I lose just as much time by rolling the initial D3, and then my hand twitches and my mind goes through I need to roll a second D3 now. And then I go back and go, wait, no, I don't. I have to just read what's on this dice.
That'll
And
only
I
take
wasted more time. I wasted more time than I would have originally if I just rolled 2 dice. And that will take time to beat out of my skull for sure.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
If you need any help, let me know.
Yeah. I do what you love. You
Yeah,
know?
do what you love, man. Never work a day in your life. It's true. Yeah, I although like I think that the just roll a dice, because it also kind of has like 2 fail points on it in a way, where like now I know the minimum is 2, so like it's, you know, and like before a lot of the time it was roll a 2 up and then roll the second. I don't know. I love it. And I think that's actually a huge quality of life and speed improvement. I think it's both, you know.
100%.
What's interesting too is that like they have gotten rid of almost all re-rolling in AOS, and they've never even attempted it in 40k. And I think that's really interesting. You know, like they haven't even tried. It's just like, if you're near that unit, you get the re-rolls, you know? And we had that a lot in 2nd edition, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played 40k in a really long time, so I can't really speak to that. But hopefully it's a little less re-rolling. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is a little less. I have not played a lot of 10th edition, but I agree with Kiki. I like rolling dice, like, and I don't mind re-rolls. Like, I kind of like. I did like that you can kind of adjust the, what's the word, like the, not the stats, but like the statistics, and like you can make things more reliable or less reliable on whether or not you give them rerolls. But it takes more time, and it's just like, it's better to just have things be like, if you want to make them more reliable, just make them 2s instead of 4s. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, like, there's a lot of stuff that's like 2-up re-rolling and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently, like, at that point, just let it happen.
Just let it
just
happen.
make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, just auto hit or something like that, right? Because as soon as it's a 2-up re-rolling, you have the person on the receiving end is salty about it because it's like, this is never going to ever miss. And then the person on the, like, giving end of it is going to be extremely salty when they roll that 1 into a 1 that one time. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one of those, like, double-edged feel-bad moments. So
it's true. Although, like, you know what? I think that they have to keep it that way, because, like, anytime where you remove dice, that's where people are the most salty. You know what I mean? Like,
but then maybe you should evaluate, like, why is something this reliable in a dice game?
No, I agree with that. That's true. Like, even if it was like roll a dice, it hits on a 2-up, and then you can re-roll it, but at -1 to hit, or -2 to hit, or something like that. It just gets a little bit more whatever, but yeah, I don't disagree. You see the world end when they get the snake eyes. They get snake eyes. Yeah, exactly. Let's not go back to the days of 40 plague months rolling 120 dice with full rerolls, crits, and mortals, and extra ren with 4 dice piles. Yep. Worse than that was Daughters. Mindrazor, AOS 1. But yeah, I never even played. I was just like, I don't like these models, so I'm not playing Plague Monks. They're also stinky and gross. But or like you know what's worse than that? Any of that? I mean, Carson, you'll remember. I think it was 8th edition orcs for 40k. They were like hitting on 5s, and like with the Daka rule and like all this other stuff. And they were just rolling like crazy piles of dice for like almost no effect. Like that was just the dumbest.
Yeah, they roll like 120 dice, and by the time they get to it, it's like, okay, and 6 saves, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
You're just like, God dang it. You know? Yeah, I hated that. Yeah, less dependable. I kind of like that too. Although, like, there's something to be said for both. Like, the more swingy the rolls are, then you are taking, like, some of the skill out of the game. You know what I mean? But it does have that more old world fantasy feel. Things feel, you know, more crazy, right? But I do absolutely the save stacking was one of the most complained things about in AOS 3. Yeah, and it was just part of the game. It was like part of its inherent design, and there wasn't much to be done about it. But they're growing unstable. Yeah. Stack your saves. What does that even mean? I feel like I'm being attacked for my rants. Well, you won't see many of them anymore. Yeah. No, dice are fun. Like, I mean, hey, as a Skaven player, you're talking to a natural gambler. A natural love of the dice and the swinginess. Oh, man. But yeah, anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed the rants. They're not angry rants. They're the rants for the benefit of us all. Even GW. Like, even GW. Like, even as frustrating as some of the decisions they made, you know, like, what we really care about is the game and the community and having fun and more people coming to this. Because, like, it really is, like, honestly, the game keeps getting better and better, and it should just get more and more popular. I think it's the best war game ever created. Sigmar lied about a lot of things, but he did not lie about how much fun this damn game is. And so I want more people to experience it, and I actually want GW to succeed. So, like, yeah, it's all for the community and the game, you know. Anyway, if you enjoyed this and you made it this far, first of all, bless you. Bless your cold, dead heart. And if you did make it this far, maybe you'd like to subscribe, and maybe you'd like to like, and maybe you'd like to comment. Let us know what you guys think. What was your favorite? We're at the end of the faction focuses now, so what was your favorite faction focus? Are you going to get Skaventide? Are you looking forward to the 4th edition? Are you coming back? Are you new? Let us know. We want to hear from you. But as always, we will see you guys next Tuesday. And yeah, bye.